Out of the gates and ready to go. OutKick 360 is underway. Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us across the OutKick network. John McClain joins us in 20 minutes. We'll talk Super Bowl 57 in hour number 1, and we'll continue throughout the show. Former NFL defensive line coach Jim Washburn, his son Jeremiah is a coach on the Eagles staff on the defense. He'll join us at the top of hour number 2. We'll break down this stellar Philadelphia defensive front with 78 sacks if you count the postseason. And then in hour number 3, Super Bowl champion, former teammate of Tom Brady, Logan Ryan on the program today. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. This will be our final show in this studio before heading to the desert, to Arizona for the week. So
that's right.
Excited to rock and roll with another great guest list. A bunch of good guests yesterday, more good guests today, and then we'll be loaded up with guests on Radio Row at the Super Bowl. Looking forward to it.
Great coverage coming from Glendale, Phoenix, and Scottsdale all week at OutKick.com, getting ready for Chiefs and Eagles. And we mentioned Logan Ryan's coming to the show. Last time he joined us, he was here in Nashville for training camp, and Brady wasn't with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they faced the Tennessee Titans. And at the time, he had no idea what Brady's schedule was going to be, when he was going to return, if he was going to retire. He didn't have any answers. I think we definitely know that Brady is for real this time based on the Let's Go podcast. We mentioned whenever Brady stepped away from the game for the second consecutive year on February 1st, that this felt more like it was authentic. And the first public comments, while there have been others regarding the movie premiere, and he's been making the rounds, the real send-off happened this week in the episode of Let's Go podcast, and this is why it feels real, because here's Bill Belichick.
You know, Tom's had just a tremendous career. It was funny, you know, I was out at the East-West game last weekend, and of course, you know, Tom's picture's up there everywhere as a player in the game. And so, you know, that's kind of where it all started. You know, Michigan, the Orange Bowl, the East-West game, and just the greatest player, the greatest career, the great person. So such an opportunity and an honor for me to, you know, to coach Tom. So I guess it's got in at some point, you know, but it's the greatest one ever. So congratulations, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Tom, what did Bill do to bring out the best in you?
I think it's more, what did he not do to bring out the best in me? He, you know, everyone always says I was just very lucky. I mean, I think part of it, you know, I came into my career and got drafted by the Patriots. I always joke, you know, I had no idea where New England was when I got drafted. I mean, I flew into Providence, which really confuses you if you're coming from the West Coast, because I'm like, Boston, oh, Providence. And, you know, it was Coach Belichick's first year there. You know, we came in together. I always think for so many young players, who's going to be there? Anybody could get drafted to a place. Who's going to turn you into something? Who's going to develop you? Who's going to take you under theof wing? And sometimes it's a player that does it. And I definitely had a lot of players do that. And obviously I had someone that really saw something in me that, you know, not a lot of other people did.
There's Tom Brady at the end, speaking with Jim Gray, and then, of course, with Bill Belichick, his comments on Tom Brady on the Let's Go podcast. Chad, it was emotional for Brady to hear his former coach speak of him in that manner. And, you know, we've had guests on that have told us, like, there were Bobby Carpenter validates this. No one got after Brady more than Bill Belichick.
Yeah, it was Bobby Carpenter saying, I didn't know that quarterbacks could be talked to this way. His first time there, that the way that Bill Belichick got onto him. That didn't even sound like Bill Belichick. Just hearing the different side of him. It took me a while when I first heard the interview to realize it was Belichick, because there's a higher octave in his voice when he's just talking to retired quarterback Tom Brady.
Instead of mumbling to the media?
Yes, that he spent years talking to. But even when you see Belichick, you know, footage of him coaching, there's a different sound in his voice. He sounded like a completely different person talking about Brady. Really cool, after all the speculation about their relationship possibly falling apart, to hear an interview like that and to hear Bill Belichick say those great things about Tom Brady and the sound in his voice when he does it, and to hear Brady get emotional about it. I just listened to it, and it's historical in the context of the NFL that these two greats at the end of Tom Brady's career are coming together to talk about this. And the way Bill Belichick described it as the greatest career in the NFL, that's exactly the way I would describe it as well. You can sit and argue who was a better quarterback in one snapshot of time or whatever. Bottom line is Tom Brady had the best career of any player in NFL history. Quarterback, any player. It's the best NFL career we've ever witnessed. really cool to hear Bill Belichick confirm that and to hear those guys get a chance to talk that way.
And Peyton Manning also chimed in. Peyton said that he could have gone to a couple of NFC teams, but on purpose, he stayed in the AFC whenever he left the Colts so he could face off with the rivalry head-to-head with Brady. And the quote was, I could have easily gone to a couple NFC teams. I played against Tom a bunch. I knew eventually you're going to have to play them. Let me at least try to earn it. Meaning it goes through Foxborough or it goes through, in this case, Denver, wherever he chose to play. And it did. I mean, it was either Brady, Manning, or Roethlisberger that you had to go through in the AFC.
Really cool. I mean, those games, that's why I think just internally I'm rooting for Mahomes and Burrow to become that. And it's on that path right now, but that was just so much fun. When you knew a Peyton Manning-led team and a Tom Brady-led team are going to be relevant into the playoffs every year. When that was the understanding going into it, it was just a lot of fun. And the NFL is still fun, but I want that level of quarterback rivalry again, and maybe we'll get it with Mahomes and Burrow both in the AFC.
UAB head coach and a former Ravens quarterback, Trent Dilfer, sparking a rivalry with literally anyone who loves this era
come and get it.
Of quarterback play.
Quarterbacks, come and get it right now.
So the latest 30 for 30 on the Baltimore Ravens, we highly recommend it. It's legit.
It's really good.
Dilfer is at the reunion with players and says this about Rodgers and Brady.
Modern day game does not impress me. It's super easy when you don't get hit as a quarterback and when you can't reroute receivers and when you can't hit guys across the middle. I love Tom Brady. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love these guys. It's not impressive. What's impressive is what they did.
Now from RG3, who posted that on social from the reunion. But look, there is a clip that's going around of Brady, and I remember this. They did the sit down with Brady and a few of his offensive teammates with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 years ago, and during training camp. And Brady mentions how the rules are stacked against the defense to where a quarterback's mistake is rewarded by good defensive effort. Meaning, if he says, I'm paraphrasing, if he puts the ball in the wrong place and the defender hits a player the wrong way because the ball's in the wrong place, the quarterback's rewarded and bailed out for that. And he goes on to say, we're protected to a certain degree where, we shouldn't make those massive mistakes by protecting ourselves and our offensive teammates, but the defense is penalized for it. And the guys were looking at him like, are you really saying this? Gronk, Mike Williams, they're all looking at him, are you really? And yeah, he's like, yeah, the defense is penalized. Dilfer is right and wrong. You can find, we could go through a jacked up list of Brady and Rodgers getting smoked in the pocket. That's number one. Number two, those two dudes could play in any era. That's the other point that Dilfer's missing on here. And I think Dilfer's he's receiving a lot of heat for this. He's not saying that he was impressive as a quarterback. He's saying the other era was impressive where defenses are flying around ear-holing you.
Yeah, and I saw this in the context of the documentary. So when this clip went viral, I didn't think anything of it watching it. I was watching it yesterday. In fact, when this clip happened, and there was an alarm bell that went off that said, that's an interesting point. And he uses Brady and Rodgers as the example. But he also said, I love those guys, but that's not what impresses me. That's not impressive to me. And what the context is when he's talking about you guys, what you guys did was impressive. He is pointing to Ray Lewis and to Rod Woodson and to Tony Siragusa. And he's talking about what you guys were able to inflict on opposing quarterbacks was impressive. And the fear that I saw in opposing quarterbacks because of defenses like yours, that is what was impressive. That's a different era of football. I totally understand what he's saying. I got no issue with it, honestly. He knows Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are really good. He says, I love those guys. Trent Dilfer is like the preeminent quarterback instructor in America with what he did with everything with youth quarterbacks for so long, right?
Elite 11.
The Elite 11 camp that he started, that he went through, now he's at UAB. I didn't take anything from it. I get that people are going to react this way, But all he's doing is highlighting one area of the game that is different today. And if you watch that documentary, watch those Ravens defenses, watch what they do to Akili Smith of the Cincinnati Bengals in that 2000 season. That ain't happening today.
Or anyone.
I think someone, that was a legal hit that put someone through the turf and out for the game and maybe the season, that you may be kicked off the team if you committed that hit
You're on the
today.
exempt list.
Yes.
The commissioner's placing you aside.
I mean, Tony Siragusa is joking about a quarterback getting mad about him driving his entire body weight through his shoulder, separating his shoulder on the ground, and makes a joke about, well, my wife is 5'4", 125 pounds, and she's got my weight on her all the time. This guy should be able to handle it. That's what he said after the game, after he ended a guy's season at quarterback. This is what Trent Dilfer is talking about in terms of what's impressive. I got no issue with it.
Final thought on it. We mentioned Brady is a generation that's retiring, right? A generation of the sport. Brady played in this era that Dilfer's talking about. So, again, I don't know what he's referencing in terms of Brady's got it easy when Brady played in the same era as Trent Dilfer and stood in those pockets as well and faced the Ravens defense, because you had to go through Brady to reach the ultimate goal of playing for a Super Bowl. Chad is
by the way, here's what I don't want to happen, closing this out.
Yeah.
Don't apologize if you're Trent Dilfer. Don't apologize for that
won't.
statement. I don't think he will. Now, he may be asked about it, and he may go clarify a little bit of exactly what he's saying. That's fine. Do not apologize. No public apologies. You should have a public apology, Hutton?
Yeah, I was going to say, should it be Jaden Rashada?
It's the Gator Collective that should have a public apology, not Jaden Rashada. Because Jaden Rashada would be foolish not to sign on with anyone that's going to offer a 4-star, not a 5-star, a 4-star, 85th ranked player in the country the following contract that you're going to see right now. Over $13 million total. Now, what does that look like? This is what really grabbed hold of me when I read this report from The Athletic, and they got a hold of the contract for Jaden Rashada to go to Florida. $500,000 up front. After that, payments would be $250K a month as a freshman, over $291,000 a month as a sophomore, $375K a month as a junior, and then $195,000 plus per month as a senior. All the obligations that he had to fulfill were living in Gainesville, Florida, one branded Twitter post and one branded Instagram post per month, up to 8 fan engagement events per year, and autographing up to 15 pieces of merchandise per year, and obviously playing football for Florida. These numbers are insane. I am all for name, image, likeness. I am all for guys getting what they're worth. I'm going to give you a little hint here. Jaden Rashada is not worth that. I don't know a college football player that hasn't already won a national title that is worth that kind of money. That is insane. I hope this is a market adjustment. I hope what we're witnessing is, now that these numbers are out and people's eyeballs are bulging out of their eyes when they see that people are saying, okay, this isn't worth it. Let me give you another example. If Nico Iamaleava is making $2 million a year at Tennessee, which has been reported, that's fine. If they don't win an SEC title while he's there, it's not money well spent. And this is where it's going to get really tricky for some collectives and some guys. That kind of money, Hutton, I'm seeing that, I'm thinking Jaden Rashada is going to win them a national title, or it's not going to feel worth it. Just spend that much money on one guy.
Well, Rashada they're saying they would make him relevant. That's how desperate Florida was and is at the quarterback position.
I don't understand it. I don't know any other school that would pay him that.
But didn't pay him that. Like, that's the overriding point.
And also the contract shows they had an out the entire time that says, we can just nullify this contract. It can be our decision solely. And that's what they did.
Coming up, Marshall Manning at the Pro Bowl is lighting it up. We'll have video and react to Peyton's son when we come back, though. John McClain joins us. Time to preview the upcoming Super Bowl matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We'll also dive in to the big headlines around the coaching hires in the NFL. John McClain next on OutKick 360.
It's so crazy because Tom Brady is just a touch older than me. I believe now there are no NFL players older than me, which that's the first time in my life I can say that.
Okay.
So now I feel really old. Now I feel truly and really old.
I'm sorry, man. God, that's horrible. I didn't know that feeling. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
there's
I
a punter or
apologize.
a kicker. I have to check. Maybe I'm hoping there's like an old, like a long time punter, kicker, or a long snapper that's older than me, but I don't think so. And it's amazing to me thinking about Brady the last few years. Like, I know how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I can't even imagine attempting to play in the NFL like this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if last season should have happened, but that's not up for me. It's not for anybody to sit there and argue.
I don't have the drive Tom Brady has. I'm very willing to admit that.
Right.
It seemed to me, just as an outsider with no inside information whatsoever, that he retired and that he engaged in normal life for the first time in a long time. Was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm getting back to the NFL.
Right. I don't like the daycare thing. I love my kids, but I don't like dropping it off. I don't want to go play pickleball at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, let's get back to normal. But it'd be interesting. Like, I don't know if we'll see another quarterback take it that far, Andy, in the NFL. Like, he really pushed
got
the
Aaron
limits,
Rodgers,
right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers going to be 39. You got him hinting at retirement now, and it does feel like the game's maybe taking a little more toll on his body than Brady. Maybe there's some ayahuasca that'll fix that, but it's crazy that it lasted this long. I mean, I think back to how much my life, I graduated college in 2000, and working my first job, watching Tom Brady lead the Patriots when they were the underdogs to the win against the Rams in the Super Bowl, and thinking, well, that's a cool story. 6th-round guy, hope the career works out for him. And the level of winning and just consistency, I'm not sure we're going to see it again.
No. And I don't, especially with a quarterback who has that tenacity, he also puts in everything into the game. Like, it's like he can't take a breather. And it just, he has a different workflow. It kind of reminded me of what Kobe Bryant used to do in the NBA. Or you can go on and name them on. But now, but I'm interested to see now, what that looks like in the future, and does this, and I'll ask you this, because this news could break while we're down here in Mobile. Todd Monken, Georgia offensive coordinator. Does this make room for him now to potentially say, okay, I can go to Tampa, we can go find a quarterback that works for me in my system, and maybe take over the offensive coordinator position? What have your thoughts been on the Monken Buccaneer stuff?
Are you ready for Stetson Bennett as the Buccaneers starting quarterback? Are we ready to live in a world where Stetson Bennett makes that pirate ship go boom? I'm
excited. It can in the 6th round.
It's very interesting because, Monken, I think, you look at that tenure with Jameis Winston in Tampa, it didn't go as well as anybody would have wanted. And maybe Monken going, well, if I had a different quarterback, one who didn't put the ball in harm's way as often, perhaps that works out.
From 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine, Hutton and Withrow with you for OutKick 360, Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us and pleased to be joined by John McClain. GallerySports.com is where you can find him. He's joining us from his great radio partner there in Houston. A lot to get to, John. Happy Super Bowl week to you.
Thank you guys very much, as always.
Let's go ahead and get it. Let's get cut right to the chase. Your pick for Super Bowl 57 and why?
Since before the playoffs, I've been picking the Eagles because the Eagles have the best balance. They've got a great running game. They've got a good passing game. They have a great offensive line. And they have the best defensive line and the best pass rush, which I think is going to be able to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. No matter how good he thinks he feels or tells the public he feels, there's no way he can be 100% after suffering an ankle sprain in the playoffs. So I think the 74% of their sacks, and I think counting playoffs, they're up to 79, have come from a four-man rush. And they have four defensive linemen who have double-digit sacks. So most of the time he's going to be facing a defense that has seven people in the secondary with not much time to throw. I think if the Eagles get down, not in the red zone, but inside the 10, they're going to have Jalen Hurts like an extra running back. And the Chiefs have a great offensive line, too, and a real good defensive line. So these games, they always talk about whoever commits the fewest turnovers. It's a cliche, but the fact is, guys, whoever wins the battle of the trenches is going to win this game. And if you're an aficionado of offensive and defensive line, this is an unparalleled Super Bowl.
It's hard to see this being a bad game or a bad matchup, isn't it? I mean, you get the number one scoring offense in Kansas City against the all-star team of Philadelphia.
That's a great point, Jonathan. I think the only way it could be like that if there were a couple of early turnovers. Neither team has committed a lot of turnovers, but say there were a couple of tip passes, Eagles get them down 14-0, or the Chiefs get the Eagles down 14-0, but they both have such good offensive, explosive offenses. As you guys know, all those Titans fans are going to be watching A.J. Brown. Don't you know how happy he is, get $25 million a year. Now he's got a chance to get a Super Bowl ring. And he's had a chance to get a Super Bowl ring with the Titans. Of course, it didn't come to fruition. So I think it has all the makings of a close game, a great game, and I can't wait to see it.
John, I keep thinking about the Bucs Chiefs Super Bowl and how that got out of control because the Chiefs offensive line could not protect Patrick Mahomes. That would be my fear for this game with everything you brought up with those defensive stats for the Eagles. But I think you mentioned this also. Big difference is just how much improvement we've seen with this Chiefs offensive line since that Super Bowl performance.
That's a great observation, Chad. Like Andy Reid made that priority number one. And in pass rush win rate, they were number one, even though the Eagles' offensive line is considered to be the best in the NFL. But the Chiefs certainly aren't chopped liver. And that's why it's going to be so much fun to watch the pass protection, the run blocking, everything that we look forward to seeing in offensive line. It's not as sexy as watching the quarterbacks throw down the field. I saw a great stat this week that was talking about Patrick Mahomes, how many touchdown passes he'd thrown before this season, in which the ball traveled at least 20 yards in the air, going back to 18. I think it was 40-something. This year he had one. He didn't have Tyreek Hill. He's got injuries at wide receiver. You know the Eagles got to do a better job against Travis Kelce than the other defenses have. He'd be priority number one. I'd say, look, we're going to put two guys on him everywhere he goes, and we're going to make wide receivers beat us. And so far, nobody has been able to contain Travis Kelce, even though you know he's going to get the bulk of the throws.
John, have you had a chance to watch Bullies of Baltimore yet?
I have not. I taped it. I can't wait to see it.
So, Brian Billick, I'm sure you have some Brian Billick stories, but I'm watching this and I'm thinking, man, this guy was such a personality. I get that he's not likable. I'm a little surprised he didn't have more opportunities or last longer as an NFL coach somewhere else, given some of those personality traits. But I also think that may be what eventually derailed him from NFL coaching. What do you make of the plight of Brian Billick through those years and then after?
He was very outspoken. I remember we got to the Super Bowl that he won. Ray Lewis had issues. And before the media ever asked him a question, he just lambasted the media. And I'm thinking, I know you're protecting your player, but that's pretty stupid. Nobody's asked you about it. And then I'll tell you a really interesting story. After they had that thing at the Titans, in which I can't remember what was it they played of his, and then the Ravens beat them, and he did a lot of mouthing off. And of course, Titans fans and Jeff Fisher, they all hated the Ravens and Brian Billick. The NFL had their business summit in Nashville, and I was president of Pro Football Writers of America. And I asked Jeff Fisher, I said, could you get somebody from the country music industry to make a surprise appearance when every non-football person is at the hotel in a big ballroom? I know they'd love to see it and give them something to talk about. So he set up Tim McGraw. And so when I was introducing him, the idea was for Tim to hit the curtain behind the stage. And at that time, his wife was at the epitome of her career. And I said, guys, since we're in Music City, wanted to get somebody for you guys to meet and talk to who's really big from Nashville. And Faith Hill's gotten all these #1 hits. She's beautiful. She's this, she's this. And Tim's hitting that curtain, and they're all on the edge of their seats expecting Faith Hill to come out. And then I said, but Faith is on the road, and I could not get her here. But I have her husband. And Tim came out, and there was total silence. And Tim had a couple of good lines about, well, I'm sorry my wife's not here. And he made a quick speech. And as he left, he said, I hate the Ravens and Brian Billick. And he disappeared. And then PR people ran up to me and said, was that really Tim McGraw or an imposter? I said, that's Tim McGraw. So a bunch of them ran, fought their way behind the curtain, went to chase him, but he and Jeff were gone. And they're like, I can't believe Tim McGraw was here. And so I called Fisher in his office, and he and Tim had gone back over there. And they were getting such a kick out of Tim's walkaway line about Billick and the Ravens. And I'm sure the Baltimore people told Brian Billick about it, but I just thought that was hilarious. And you know what? You guys were there. You know that pretty much summed up the feeling of all Titans fans and how they felt about Brian Billick this way.
Yep. One finger salute. John, I miss that era because of the trash talk. You know, the vitriol between players is just not there. It's not at that level anymore. Everyone loves everyone. They're swapping jerseys after losses at the 50-yard line. Those teams weren't doing that.
And I'll give you an example. When the Patriots have had the best dynasty in NFL history, and people look at them, okay, how do they operate? Well, Bill Belichick keeps his fist on all those players. You never hear them say anything interesting. You never hear them say a word about an opponent. And so that's the way they want to adopt it. Everybody, head coaches, assistants, are on the players constantly about it. If you can't say something nice, keep your mouth shut. And it's boring. And it's not nearly as much fun. I think today players, they make so much money. They take such great care of themselves. They have such long careers. They don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize it. And I think that's why we don't have trash talk. Can you imagine somebody at this Super Bowl saying, Patrick Mahomes is so dumb he couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the A, like Hollywood Anderson did about Terry Bradshaw before the Steelers beat the Cowboys. And you just don't see things like that anymore. And I think they don't need it to hype the game, but players are so much careful because it's just drilled in them by their coaches, their PR people, their agents, everybody. Don't say anything. that's going to make you look bad or create havoc for your team before the game.
Yeah, John, what was said on the Jumbotron at the Titans game, they put the quote up of Chris McAllister, the Ravens defensive back, who basically said Eddie George laid down like a baby in our arms after we hit him a couple times in the last game they played in Nashville during the regular season. That fired up the Titans. Titans went right down the field and scored on the first drive of that game. All Eddie George runs for the most part on that drive. But also what happened post-game that they showed in the documentary was Brian Billick said, hey, guys, first off, always respect your opponents. Always respect your opponent. Now turn off those bleeping cameras right now and turn them down. And then he says, bleep the Titans. And everyone starts cheering and going nuts. He says, okay, now turn the cameras back on. And then he goes, again, guys, always respect your opponents. Always respect your opponents. I'm with Hutton. I miss that. Billick even says in the reunion, can you imagine the 2000 Ravens if Twitter existed and what Tony Saragusa's Twitter account would look like and things they would say about opponents and getting ready for a game that would be fuel for the other team? I miss it, John.
I miss it too, Chad Light. Can you imagine if they had cell cameras when Kenny Stabler, Joe Namath, Bobby Lane, Dan Pastorini, quarterbacks like that love the ladies and the ladies love them, and they were out and about all the time. Kenny Stabler had one of the all-time great lines in which they told him, how can you stay out partying all the time and then still win at football? He said, because I can read a playbook by the light of a jukebox.
John McClain with us. At one time, I'm sure John could do that with a former band that he was a member of.
John would write full columns by the light of a jukebox, I believe, back in the day about the Houston Aeros when he was covering the hockey team there, I'm sure.
John, why did Brian Flores choose the Vikings defense to coordinate? Because he had options.
He had options, but I'm guessing if you look at a team that won last year and he has a really good coach to work for, Kevin O'Connell, who's an offensive coach, so he would leave the defense entirely up to Brian Flores. They have good defensive backs. They have good safeties. And so I'm guessing that was it. Don't know. He was in the running for the Cardinals head coaching job. Obviously, they told him he's not going to get that job. And so that's why he accepted it. And because there's not many teams that win. What did they win? 13 games, 12 games? Not many jobs you can go to win that many games, although I have never seen 1 year in which so many playoff teams lost and then fired their coordinators. It's amazing.
Do you think Eric Bieniemy is getting the Colts job, or is he moving on from Kansas City, or does he stay? Because the quote that he had yesterday from Bieniemy as the OC says he hasn't taken any interviews for any offensive coordinator positions. He's been asked, specifically, Vrabel's done that here in Nashville, asked to speak with him. I'm sure there are others. Meanwhile, he has interviewed with the Colts at least one time that we know of. The fact that the Chiefs continue to advance means he's not available to interview as frequently as others throughout this process. But if he doesn't get the head coaching job this offseason, and right now there's one left based on the finalists that we know of in Arizona, John, do you think he sticks around in KC, or do you think this is one of those situations where he's got to bounce to prove he's doing something else other than, running an offense for Andy Reid?
I think this, and anybody thinks he's running all that offense without Andy having a heavy hand on that is nuts. And people in the NFL know that. He's had so many interviews. I think the ship has sailed on Eric Bieniemy being a head coach. Not really sure why. If you're an assistant coach, who would you rather work for than the Chiefs? You're a Super Bowl contender every year. Andy Reid's not retiring anytime soon. Patrick Mahomes is not going anywhere anytime soon. And every year you got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And that means you're a winner. You make more money and you get playoff checks. And so I can't imagine he wants to leave there. I don't think it's that. I think he must not do a good job in his interviews because he's had so many that something is wrong. I don't know if he's not getting help from a professional to help him do a better job. His agent's doing everything he can to help him. But if he doesn't get a head coaching job this year, I don't think he ever will.
John, not that I think it's going to have any say in the outcome, but knowing Nick Sirianni's personality, how much of a motivating factor do you think it is that he was not retained by Andy Reid when he was on that Chiefs staff when Reed came over in 2012?
Well, he had David Culley, former Texans coach, who was Andy's longtime receivers coach in Philadelphia, and he got promoted. And Sirianni said at the Super Bowl, what they call it now, Monday night, that bothered him, that he's motivated by it. And a lot of people were surprised he would admit that, but I like that honesty, and it did bother him. And now I'm guessing now he and Andy are good friends, not this week, but they're good friends. And I think, that's the Philadelphia kind of thing to say, be a little cocky and tell the truth. And I like that. And Sirianni, when they hired him, nobody in Philadelphia liked it. And now, of course, they love Nick Sirianni.
John, did you catch some Alex Guerrero vibes from Sean Payton yesterday in his opening press conference where with the Broncos he says, the team 3 with Russell Wilson, that's not happening in the facility again?
He also had his own parking space. I've never seen a player have his own parking space in the player lot. And maybe he was parking up where the owner does. And he also had an office. I remember Brett Favre had an office at the end of his career. I think that's ridiculous because Favre was in his office while Aaron Rodgers was out bonding with his receivers and offensive linemen during that 3-year period in which he was a backup and seldom played. And so Sean Payton's a no-nonsense coach. He's strict. He's a disciplinarian. He comes from the Bill Parcells School of Discipline. So Russell Wilson ain't having a parking space, and he's not going to have an office, and he's not going to have his people having a free run of it. Now, Alex Guerrero didn't have a free run in New England, but in that complex around the stadium, he had an office there, probably played for by Brady, where Brady could get to him very easily. But I didn't know all that about Wilson. I'm kind of surprised because, when you do that, it's going to cause jealousy. People are going to talk about it. It's kind of a distraction. If you're playing great, it's one thing. But when you're stinking it up like Russell Wilson did last season, whether it was him, the system, the coach, Nathaniel Hackett, that's the kind of thing you don't want hanging over your head. And I'm glad Sean Payton said that.
John McClain has covered the NFL for nearly 5 decades. You can read his work at gallerysports.com. John, thank you as always, and have a great week as we lead up to the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Guys, thank you very much. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. It's amazing how so many games, when I used to cover them, they were blowouts, and now they all seem to be close. You guys have a great weekend and enjoy Super Bowl Sunday.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. There's John McClain of gallerysports.com. Follow him at McClain_on_NFL. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Jim Washburn will join us, former defensive line coach across the league. His son Jeremiah coaches for the Philadelphia Eagles, that defensive front that has led to the #1 pass defense in the NFL. When we come back, though, a future passer, most likely in the NFL. It's Peyton Manning's son, and he showed off the skills at the Pro Bowl in Vegas. That's next on OutKick 360.
I witnessed, Dennis Price and C-Spray and all these people just do such amazing things, and we continue to get asked about Afghanistan and what we didn't do in Ukraine. Like, why would you, beyond Aziz, it's no brainer why I would go help Aziz. Why would we continue to help these people? And I think the easy answer is the right thing to do. When the governments of the world completely failed, including our own, it was very discouraging. But what brought me hope was to see that when the governments of the world failed, good people stood up and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And one of the things myself and C-Spray were asking in this interview is, why would you do it? And of course, we said because it's the right thing to do. But C-Spray was asked a question that I think is important that we can all learn from. He was asked, "Was it worth it? Was it worth it?" And he said, "It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing." And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI. What are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? but it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans. And I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world can learn something from this, that there is hope, that there's good people around who will stand up and do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money? And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it. And I was like, oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something? They said, no, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization, and we can't give you that money. And I said, okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right? And we kind of laughed and moved forward, and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, like nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be like just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. Everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this, because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. It started in February. We had ceasefires on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up, and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
I'm going to try to get through the segment, Chad, without saying Marshall Mathers instead of Marshall Manning.
The Marshall Mathers LP?
Yeah, I'm trying not to do that.
Don't say B-Rabbit either. Or
rolls on. Yeah, I know.
Those names.
I know.
Synonyms.
So Marshall Manning letting it rip at the Pro Bowl. And you sent the video to me. He's got quite the spin rate on the football.
I mean, just dropping a complete dime to Jamar Chase is incredible to see. This was at the Pro Bowl practice in Vegas, and Marshall Manning is a very young guy, clearly learned from his dad, Peyton. And if you watch that form, Hutton, I feel like I've seen that little drop back and that throwing motion before. Very reminiscent of his old man, of Peyton Manning. And I'd like to say this to Marshall Manning. I hope you do what your uncle Eli did and follow in the footsteps of your father to the school where he played quarterback and go to Tennessee. You know, do the right thing by your dad and go to Tennessee. Peyton and Arch are the outliers in the Manning family in that they didn't go where their dad went. So Cooper Manning played receiver at Ole Miss. His son Arch is going to Texas. Archie's son Eli went to Ole Miss. There's Peyton, who went to Tennessee. So what will Marshall Manning eventually do? And that's going to be
He'll probably,
if we're going by Jaden Rashada money, it could be the $15 million question years from now for where he's going to end up in college.
He'll be playing at Colorado for Dion.
It could be Coach Prime. Could be. That's a great one.
Or playing for Florida State in the SEC.
Or wherever David Cutcliffe is a consultant at that time, right? Someone's going to want to hire him as a consultant.
It won't be. We know where it will not be. It will not be at Alabama or Florida.
I would think not. I think or Georgia. I think if his dad
Georgia's a little.
If his dad has any say,
yeah.
I think if Marshall Manning goes to Florida, then he hates his father, right? That's immediately I'm thinking like there's something up there where he just doesn't like his dad, given the history with Peyton Manning in Florida.
How old is he?
I don't know. I want to say 12, maybe.
Yeah, so he's got scholarships.
I'll look it up right now. Well, I'm sure he got like the all the programs that knew Peyton sent him on his birthday.
He's 11.
You get the scholarship offer on your birthday.
Yeah,
you got a scholarship waiting on you to come in. I'm sure he got a lot of those when he came through. Yeah, 11 years old. That's a nice toss for an 11-year-old.
What do the Mannings not do well as a family?
It's a good question.
Everyone's like, Arch is under so much pressure. I'm like, Arch Manning at Texas is going to crush it.
Yeah, he'll be
because
fine.
He's a Manning.
He'll be fine. Eli's son, Charlie, was really cute also. He had a matching outfit that Eli had on when he was coaching that day, just following him around. The Manning family is one of those that you look up, and I just watch them, and I just think, I just really wish I was in that family. We had an intern, Ellie, who's in the family, and I would tell her, I'm like, I really wish that I was your cousin.
She didn't really care.
Yeah, she didn't care at all. I cared more than she did. But I just tell her constantly, I wish I was your cousin that I could just show up at Thanksgiving and be there at family events. It's just a family you want to be a part of. Not that I want to disown my own family. Don't get me wrong.
Go ahead.
I love my family, and I love my extended family. But, I know that I'm not breaking news to any of the Withrows here.
Oh, man.
We're not Mannings. My Withrow family, we're not Mannings. It would just be very special to be a part of that family. This is my plea.
Future commissioner of football, Peyton Manning.
This is my plea to somehow crash this family one day.
Chad, you can win Cracker Barrel for a full year.
I'm in.
If you get engaged at 1.
I'm not going to lie. I know the Cracker Barrel menu backwards and forwards. I haven't been in a while. Last time probably 2 months ago, I was at a Cracker Barrel, and some of the menu items had changed, but it's one of those like Waffle House that I could tell you the menu before showing up.
All you have to do is be a couple that gets engaged at a Cracker Barrel, and you win Cracker Barrel for a year between February 10th and the 16th. 5 couples get the year-long golden ticket. I'm sorry, but this...
Is it just the first 5?
Yeah. One year of Cracker Barrel is not enough for this.
I could do a fake engagement at Cracker Barrel for free Cracker Barrel for a year.
I'm not getting on a knee to tie my shoe at a Cracker Barrel.
There's some serious grocery feet going on that those brown floors at Cracker Barrel. If you got a little kid running around there shoeless, then they're gonna come out there with some black heels when they leave. Tar Heels. I think that's where the Tar Heel names comes from. In fact, there's gonna be some tar on those floors too.
Can you how does that go over though? if you're the guy proposing at a Cracker Barrel, she's got to be in on it, right?
Where are we?
Why do we do this here? And it's like, because we're getting Cracker Barrel for a year.
I don't want to demean any one place, but I mean, where are we located? There are certain parts of this country that it's probably considered pretty cool to get down on a knee at Cracker Barrel and propose.
What is? OutKick, you can read the details of it, but you got to upload your videos and like the hashtag is like I said yes at a Cracker Barrel or something. Again, I'm not tying my shoe there, much less proposing.
Well, let me tell you what I'm saying yes to at Cracker Barrel: the meatloaf, the chicken and dumplings, the chicken fried chicken. I'm saying yes to those items. I'm not saying yes to
Uncle
a marriage.
Herschel's breakfast.
Oh, the Uncle Herschel's, the grandpa's or the big boy breakfast or whatever it's called too. All of those.
I can't crank it up to your level, Chad.
It's terrific. I know you can't. When it comes to eating, few can, Hutton.
They got some great birdseed there that I enjoy.
Yeah. Hutton's like, can I just get a side salad? Sir, you're at a Cracker Barrel. We have not had anyone order a side salad here in 40 years.
But they will. They'll
serve
make
salad
you one.
at
They
Cracker
do.
Barrel?
Yes, they do. They do have a side salad. Again, like you're saying.
That's of all of those veggie options for sides.
Oh,
I've never even thought to look at a side salad.
I'm not going salad there. I'm going straight vegetable plate.
You know what I love there? The apples as a side.
I'm not big on warm fruit.
Really? I only like warm fruit. I think I just realized
I'm not big on warm fruit. Apples haven't done it for me.
I have a very sensitive mouth, so most cold fruits really affect me in a negative way. So I like to warm up my.
You've told me that before.
Yeah. I'm the guy you'll see putting a banana in the microwave before I consume it, like baby food. I mix it in a bowl.
Oh man!
Eat it with a little plastic spoon.
Very sensitive.
It's great.
Very sensitive.
Very sensitive mouth.
Hit us up on social at OutKick 360.
The mouth of a baby.
How did your first practice go last night for the softball team?
It was good. It was
Any
good.
broken bats or anything?
I go to the cage and pitch on the side, so I don't get to see a lot of the fielding drills and all the team activities. I've got two girls at once and rotate them out, and then we did some team base running stuff in between each little station. But girls were into it. Listen. Told them we have a mission statement on our team. Two rules. We're going to get better every time we meet, and we're going to have fun. That's it. So I asked them that before and after every practice. Did you learn anything? Did you get better? And are you having fun? That's the key in little kid softball.
So I'm trying to put myself in Little League baseball, softball. If my first practice, the coach got up there and said, we have a mission statement. We have two key. I'm thinking, oh, God, this is going to be hell.
Well, it's not. I'm not handing out like the, Jerry Maguire mission statement to all of them.
Sign this contract.
I need you all to memorize these 2 pages by the time you come back.
It's all about integrity.
We're going to recite these. Yeah. Here's the oath you're going to give to all your teammates and to your coaches. We're going to recite these.
It's like the DARE program
practice.
to keep you off drugs in school. Like, this is Chad's oath. Like, sign this. This is all about integrity and honesty.
This is the
when it comes
contract
to
you signed to be
training for this team.
The Little Red Sox softball team. I need you to sign this and acknowledge parts A, B, C, D, and addendum G, and then sign off on all those, middle initial as well, and you can be a part of the team. No, I go in and say, let's learn, let's have fun, and I think everyone did that last night. We've got 8 girls returning from the fall. We've got 4 new girls. I met 3 of the new girls last night. 1 couldn't make it. So
I'm sure she's great.
All in all, it was a good night. Weather wasn't too bad, for this time of year at night. I mean, it got a little chilly, but it could be awful for some of these practices leading into the season, and it was not that. So we had a good time.
As long as no one pitched better than you, I think it's a good night.
No, everyone hit. Like I was. That's always my. There are times where I'm pitching okay. And I'm like, well, no one's hitting.
Take a seat.
But
take a seat.
If they're hitting it, it doesn't matter. Like that's good pitching. If they're hitting it, then I did my job. When they're not hitting it, they're not doing their job. It's never on me. It's never me.
Coming up, Jim Washburn joins us. There was a time where Wash couldn't be on our show because the dump button, we couldn't hit it often enough. Like the entire segment would just be dead air. Jim Washburn, though, is unbelievably awesome with the storytelling, and his son is coaching in the Super Bowl this coming Sunday. Longtime NFL defensive line coach Jim Washburn with us next on OutKick 360. Hang with us.
College college football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking there's going to be practice the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Glad you're with us, and just like that, hour number 2 is here. OutKick 360 Tuesday edition. And Chad, after the show today, we are headed west, headed to the desert. A pretty big game on Sunday between the Eagles and Chiefs.
The show is rolling. We will not be rolling towards Arizona. We'll be flying to Arizona
Thankfully.
later after the show. And looking forward to a great Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of coverage, and probably some things that could bleed over into next week as well, as we're going to be on Radio Row in Phoenix. And Hutton, this is my 3rd trip to Phoenix.
Same.
For a Super Bowl.
Same.
So we're very familiar with the terrain at this point.
No doubt. We've got Trey Wallace. We'll talk some SEC headlines coming up in about 20 minutes or so. But we lead off the hour with one of our favorites, Chad,
absolutely.
Over the years here in Nashville, but a longtime defensive line coach across the NFL. Jim Washburn joins us on OutKick 360. His son Jeremiah on the staff that is doing great things for Philadelphia. Jeremiah coaching in the Super Bowl this Sunday after a long career on the offensive side. He's now coaching the defensive side, and he's been on that defensive line, coaching that group with 78 sacks and putting on a show in the backfield and giving quarterbacks all kinds of hell. Coach Washburn, great to have you on, and I'm sure you're super proud of the work that Jeremiah's done. How are you?
Hey, Jace. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Chad. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for hopping on with us, Coach.
We are excellent. Is your son in charge of putting that pass rush plan into action?
Yeah, he is. Jeremiah's oldest son, and yeah, he's in charge of the pass rush plan. He puts it in every Thursday, and they've just done an incredible job. You know, when I got in the league, I got into the Titans at 99, and the first thing I did after I signed the contract is looked up to see what the franchise record was in sacks. And I thought, okay, and we broke it the first 2 years. And then I looked farther. I said, what's the all-time sack record in the NFL? And it went to the 84, 85 Bears. And I went, well, forget that one. That'll never happen. That's one of those unreachable deals. And as a matter of fact, I was coaching South Carolina in those years, and I went up and visited the defensive line coach at the Bears, Dale Haupt, Haupt, and a great one. And I was just shocked. So anyway, I was always chase sacks. I thought it was I thought if you could knock down the quarterback, you'd always have a job or you'd always make some money. But I never, ever dreamed that anybody would reach that. And anyway, that's just an incredible year they've had.
What made him swap? He was on the offensive side coaching. And why is he now on the defensive side? And I'm sure it definitely helps with what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, he just switched over and he went up there and he worked he was in between jobs. When Gase got fired at Miami, he was the offensive line coach. And I don't know, it was like a musical chair. Sometimes you get left out without a chair. And so he went up there at the personnel and worked with Howie. And then he got back on the field. And he loves it. And I think he has I know he has a unique perspective of things. And, we've talked pass rush we coached together at Miami and Detroit. While I was defensive line, he was offensive line, and we've talked about it for years and years, pass rush. So I think he has a real unique perspective.
Well, when did you know that Jeremiah was going to be a coach? Is this something you could tell early on, or when did you truly know this was going to be a path he was taking that was the same as yours?
I got kicked out of coaching a long time ago. And anyway, I was at South Carolina. I got in trouble and I couldn't get a job. So I coached a minor league football team in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Jeremiah was maybe 13 or 14. And we were sort of, I was radioactive, but I got a job coaching a minor league football team. And we bust all over the East Coast. And we had a really good team, but he went with us on a lot of things we did. I think that was the time he just fell in love with football. And, thank you, Lord, that I got back into coaching again, coaching that actually pays. And I think he fell in love with football that year. He did.
Jim Washburn with us. What's not to like about this defensive front, Coach, for Philly with Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, who you know well? I know you coached him for a year, and Hassan Reddick
Yeah,
is putting up
yeah,
massive
yeah.
numbers, and they've got some up-and-comers, too, that are very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they can say what they want. You know, if you don't have the players, then it doesn't matter. You know, you can coach, you can be the best pass rush coach on the planet, but if you don't have players, and I can tell you this, I told Jeremiah, you know, I asked him how many years you got on your contract, and he told me, and I said, you know, I would really think twice before I'd ever leave Howie Roseman. And when I was up there, we led the league in sacks my first year up there, and Jeffrey Lurie's got a penchant for sacks too. I mean, he's, you know, he really likes sacks. I mean, that's a big deal to him. And then Howie is obsessed with sacks, and he's going to have a pass rush, and he's going to, you know, there's a bunch of great coaches, pass rush coaches and coaches in general that never have the opportunity because they don't have the players. But Howie's going to get them, and especially rushers. But he's got, I'm telling you what now, Josh Sweat, I work with them. I worked with the Eagles 2 years ago out in Texas for a week, and Josh Sweat's different. He was the number one player in the country coming out in high school, and he tore up his knee. And, you know, other than that, you know, he still wears a brace, but he's like Wolverine or something. He's got some unique stuff. He's got a little bit of Jamon Curse as far as jumping off the ball. And then Brandon Graham's played for 12 years and never got double digits till Jeremiah coached him this year. He's a steady, tough, good rusher. And then Hassan Reddick, my goodness, he just had a freako year, you know, and he can go now. He can really go. And then they've got an inside rusher named Javon Hargrave, who is in the top 5 inside rushers in football. And he was a guy when I was at Dolphins we looked at coming out of South Carolina State. And really liked him. He's undersized, real small, but he's just got his hands and feet work together so well. I mean, he's a real passer. They got 4 for the first time in NFL history that ever went double digits.
Reddick is interesting. I mean, every team has their own methods, and look, I describe it as good or bad, but Reddick was out of position, wasn't he? He's finally playing his natural position in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played for Carolina and had double digits and, you know, 10 or 11, something like that with 2 different teams. But the Cardinals had him playing inside linebacker. You know, you remember Cam Wade?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I coached him and I almost had him as the Titans, but this doofus personnel guy we got cut me down on him, or we would have had him for like $1 million a year when he came out of Canada. But guys, you know, kept us from getting him. But he was a stand-up inside linebacker at Penn State. So there's guys out there, especially edge guys, don't have to be, you know, huge anymore. Just got to be athletic and be able to move. And anyway, he reminds me a lot. He reminds me a lot of Cam.
Jim Washburn, our guest on OutKick 360. Coach, does Jeremiah use the same methods that you did, where you put the money, the massive salaries on the dry erase board in the meeting rooms to motivate your guys?
I don't know. I did anything it took, but yeah, you spell sacks with $2 signs. So it starts with a $sign, ends with a $sign. Yeah, we did all that. I think that one thing that gives Jeremiah, you know, I'm proud of all my kids, but it gives him a leg up as he's coached offensive line. And I think the way he's come up with the pass rush plan, it isn't 4 guys just going crazy and rushing. You know, it's a team / group rush, and it's patterns, it's rush patterns, and you've got to know where the center's going. And matter of fact, the defensive tackles or ends got to look up and see where the receivers are. And therefore, if they can see where the receivers are, if it's 3-by-1 or 2-by-2 or whatever, they try to find the true slot and know in Mike protection, which is the most prevalent protection in the NFL, that the center's going to the nickel and the nickel always goes to the slot. So that helps them because whichever way the center slides is zone blocking, and away from it's man. So they have to know all these things, and being an offensive line coach, I think it really makes a difference. His scouting report on each offensive lineman is really thorough, and it's from the eyes of an offense and defensive lineman. So he gives them a whole, the currency in the NFL for a player is information that he can actually use. Not a playbook with all these percentages and everything, but any information a guy can use to win, is currency in the NFL. And they're playing the runs to inconvenience, but rushing the passers where they all perk up and listen. And he gives them, a lot of coaches do, but he gives them a lot of inside information and tips as far as if a guard's got his hands low or high, or if he sorbs or punches or short sets or deep sets. And so anyway, it's a lot of fun, studying pass rush.
What's Sunday going to be like for you? How are you going to watch the game?
I'm gonna be in the stands, so I hate it.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna be there, so I can't run it back, and I usually, sit there and run it back, take notes, and send Jeremiah notes at halftime. So anyway, I'll just be up there with the rest of the people. So I went to. I've had some leg problems, and I hadn't been able to go to many games in the last 2 years. So went last week, and it was fun sitting there. So can't see the game as well, but.
Yeah, you said
I think it's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, you said you hated it. You hate it. Is it because you like to be at home where you can run it back and watch and see the game better?
Yeah, I mean, I've been. I go back and forth. I used to have players that I worked in the off season. I must have worked 60, 70 defensive pass rushers in the last 3 years in D1 in Franklin. I would do that, and different ones I would watch their first half of the game when I retired, and then I would send them notes send them texts at halftime and things like that. And I enjoy that part. You just really can't see much sitting in the stands. I watched the big screen last week, so anyway, it's exciting. I think it ought to be a good game.
Wash, how much?
Are you guys pumped about going out?
Oh yeah, we love going out this week. You kidding me? It's a blast.
It's a great time.
You got the car wash of people that'll come by on Radio Row, but when it actually gets up towards game day and we get to talk a little ball, that's what makes it fun. How much of the ankle injury do you think plays a factor for Mahomes in the pocket right now?
I don't know. If you talk about a horrible character, that's him. He's unbelievable. He must be tough as you know what.
Yeah.
I think it's got to play. When McNair was hurt and had an ankle, and we were playing up there in Indianapolis, the great defensive line coach John Tierlink set up traps to trap McNair. And I'll never forget one of his pass rushes. His 4-man rush was called Coffee House, and he lured McNair to escape from his right because there was nobody out there, and it looked like it was just plenty of room. But Dwight Freeney was running a big fish hook on the backside, coming like a freight train, and he stripped McNair 2 fumbles because McNair couldn't run. So they baited him to drift to his right when he knew he couldn't scramble, and they got him from behind, and it was enough to win the game. It was a brilliant thing by Tierlink. But so I was asking Jeremiah, are they going to set up some traps to lure him to go one way? And, heck, he's just afraid to because the guy's just so good.
He is. It's
about rush patterns.
He's a magician. It's a magic show for him.
He is. I'm glad I never had to coach against that guy. We had our own problems with different quarterbacks, but he's something else. He's special.
Wash, we opened the show by discussing the era of the Ravens. We were watching the 30 for 30 on the Ravens, and the Titans are heavily featured in that. Chad and I just said we just missed that era.
True hatred amongst rivals that you could sense and watching that documentary between the Ravens and the Titans.
Yeah, everyone loves everyone now. Wash.
Buck Phillip. Is that the?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brian Billick. Yep. Yep. That's it.
Again, the hatred is weird and real. I should say.
One of my last year in college football, he came to talk at our staff at University of Houston. Billick did. So I sat in the back of the room. He was just talking to our offense, and I sat in the back of the room and took notes on everything he ever said. And I'll never forget, he said, if there's a sack in a series, you just lessen your chance of scoring by 47%. And I'll never forget him saying that. So anyway,
wow,
they got the best of us in those years, and they were awful good.
Jim Washburn, same for Coach Wash, awful good, and always welcome on this show. Love having you on, Wash. Hope everything's going well, and congrats on Jeremiah's success. This is really cool, and the pass rush has been phenomenal with him being a part of that coaching staff up front. So can't wait to see what they're able to do against the Chiefs on Sunday.
Well, they're going to need to have a really good rush, and hey, you know what? You guys have done great with your show and how it's gone nationwide, and you guys have done great. And I just God bless y'all and wish you continued success.
Same to you, Wash. Thank you, man.
Thank
really
you, Coach.
appreciate you. Got to see him soon.
You bet.
Yeah. Jim Washburn has been our guest. Even better in person with some of the stories. And it's a solid dude.
Well, he's certainly NFL off-season time. If we can get him in person in studio here, he's a guy you let breathe, because you can just say a player like Albert Haynesworth.
Or just say Brian Billick.
And he's, I mean, that was incredible. He could go back to his college coaching days that Brian Billick spoke to his Houston team, and he had that line. He remembers taking that note that what Brian Billick told him, and they would one day become rivals. But some of his stories about the players he's coached and still the connection he has with those guys years later is really incredible.
Coming up, Trey Wallace is going to join us from OutKick. When we come back, we'll lead with Nick Sirianni, his answer about is this a must-win game. And Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for the 49ers, says the Eagles got lucky. That's next on OutKick 360.
It's so crazy because Tom Brady is just a touch older than me. I believe now there are no NFL players older than me, which that's the first time in my life I can say that.
Okay.
So now I feel really old. Now I feel truly and really old.
I'm sorry, man. God, that's horrible. I didn't know that feeling. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
there's a punter or a kicker. I have to check. Maybe I'm hoping there's like an old, like a long time punter, kicker, or a long snapper that's older than me, but I don't think so. And it's amazing to me thinking about Brady the last few years. Like, I know how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I can't even imagine attempting to play in the NFL like this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, I don't even know if last season should have happened, but that's not up for me. It's not for anybody to sit there and argue.
I don't have the drive Tom Brady has. I'm very willing to admit that.
Right.
It seemed to me, just as an outsider with no inside information whatsoever, that he retired and that he engaged in normal life for the first time in a long time. I was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm getting back to the NFL.
I don't like the daycare thing. I love my kids, but I don't like dropping it off. I don't want to go play pickleball at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, let's get back to normal. But it'd be interesting. Like, you know, I don't know if we'll see another quarterback take it that far, Andy, in the NFL. Like, he really pushed
got
the
Aaron
limits,
Rodgers,
right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers going to be 39. You got him hinting at retirement now, and it does feel like the game's maybe taking a little more toll on his body than Brady. Maybe there's some ayahuasca that'll fix that, but it's crazy that it lasted this long. I mean, I think back to how much my life is. I graduated college in 2000, and working my first job, watching Tom Brady lead the Patriots when they were the underdogs to the win against the Rams in the Super Bowl, and thinking, well, that's a cool story. 6th-round guy, hope the career works out for him. And the level of winning and just consistency, I'm not sure we're going to see it again.
No. And I don't, especially with a quarterback who has that tenacity, he also puts in everything into the game. Like, it's like he can't take a breather. And it just, he has a different workflow. It kind of reminded me of what Kobe Bryant used to do in the NBA. Or you can go on and name them on. But now, but I'm interested to see now, what that looks like in the future, and Does this, and I'll ask you this because this news could break while we're down here in Mobile. Todd Monken, Georgia offensive coordinator. Does this make room for him now to potentially say, okay, I can go to Tampa. We can go find a quarterback that works for me in my system and maybe take over the offensive coordinator position? What have your thoughts been on the Monken Buccaneer stuff?
Are you ready for Stetson Bennett as the Buccaneers starting quarterback? Are we ready to live in a world where Stetson Bennett makes that pirate ship go boom? Can
I'm
that
excited.
happen?
It can in the 6th round.
It's very interesting because, Monken, I think, you look at that tenure with Jameis Winston in Tampa, it didn't go as well as anybody would have wanted. And maybe Monken going, well, if I had a different quarterback, one who didn't put the ball in harm's way as often, perhaps that works out.
Sixth and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine, our location. OutKick 360. Chad Withrow, I'm Jonathan Hutton. Trey Wallace from OutKick.com joins us in a matter of minutes. Had Media Day, opening night, as they call it now, for the Super Bowl out in Phoenix. And Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, was asked if this is a must-win game for Philly.
Must-win game.
Yeah.
Must-win game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Must-win game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a must-win game. Pretty easily stated there. That's the worst question we heard.
What a question.
Must-win game? Yeah, it's a Super Bowl.
Yep, that's how we're viewing it. We're going in as a must-win.
Pretty simple. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, he says that if he were sliding all the chips to the middle of the table, he would take Kansas City because the Eagles just got lucky.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, if I were going to bet on this game, I was going to take everything that I own, get it in cash, and put my money on Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about Philly, but I'm not going to say nothing because, like I said,
I know I don't want you to. I don't want you to get in trouble.
I was talking when I was talking to Cowboys players who were talking about us. Look at me, yeah. I'm sitting on the couch. I had no room to talk about nobody playing next week, so I'll just leave it at that.
I can't say nothing.
But like I said, I got the Kansas. I got the Chiefs. I think they got their hands full. I don't know fully about that defense. I don't know. They talk about them being a good defense. I'm not too sure. I'm not sure. I think the pass game, this Kansas City pass game will expose what we thought we were going to be able to expose before some unfortunate circumstances happen. So we'll see.
So that's Brandon Ayuk on his TikTok account there on the podcast. But so
At least he had the presence of mind to say, hey, I'm on the couch. I can't say anything about these two teams playing, but here's what I think.
But, I mean, what he's acknowledging is their path to the Super Bowl has been extremely fortunate, considering even in the NFC Championship game, the quarterback injuries, to where they had to go back to Purdy, even though Purdy couldn't attempt a forward pass. So I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, and the Eagles shouldn't apologize for that. They knock guys out with their defense. So
I still thought Philly was
going
to win that game as the game started.
And look, I get Brandon Ayuk being frustrated, not wanting to. That's frustrating. They didn't have a legitimate chance in the game because of what happened on the first series to their starting quarterback. So I get some of that frustration leaking out, and maybe he truly believes that Kansas City's better too.
Trey Wallace joins us from OutKick.com. He covers the SEC and college sports for the site. Trey, hope you're doing well.
Hey guys, hope y'all are good. Crazy week ahead, and happy to join you guys.
Brandon Ayuk is making more than Jaden Rashada was going to at Florida, not by much, but I mean, if Rashada was going to put his $500K signing bonus guarantee on the table on the Chiefs, that'd be quite the bet to place based on the details that were released.
Isn't that crazy, guys? I mean, we knew about the amount that it was going to be, $13.85 million over 4 years, but it's wild when you break it down. The $500,000 payment up front, which is a signing bonus, by the way, and then you break it down to monthly. Where this guy was, this young man making over $200,000 a month, and that's increases by year. So there was a point where he could make, I think it was $350,000 a month while being on campus, in Gainesville. And it blows my mind when you look at these contracts. And look, I've heard figures out there for different athletes, but it didn't have to get this far with Florida. And I think that is the one thing that they're going to regret, the Gator Collective and the booster that was involved, is they embarrassed themselves. And they made it even worse with this contract. Like, some folks like to give out contracts, like show the contracts to writers where they can, it makes themselves look good. You're proud. But then with Florida, it's like you put together this contract, and not Florida, the university. I'm talking about the lawyer behind the scenes. I'm talking about the booster behind the scenes and the Gator Collective, that they put together this contract that thought it would look good. And in the end, it just makes them look stupid. It makes them look bad. So it was this whole last month has been wild. And the fact that, I've talked to a couple people, that NIL money at Arizona State, nothing like he would have received at Florida, even when they were going to renegotiate his contract.
Yeah, and Trey, the fact that he didn't just go somewhere else and get that amount of money after they negated the contract at Florida, does this in a weird way sort of help correct the market a bit now that this is so public with those numbers and those numbers not being fulfilled by Florida, to where now the contracts will be a little bit more in reason with NIL when guys come out of high school and go play in college?
Chad, I think it does. I think when there's the $8 million kid out there who a lot of reports are stating that's Nico at Tennessee. I think when you look at the different structure of how NIL deals are, whether that's cars, whether that's, you're getting your rent paid for, your different cash payments. And I'm not talking about like cash payments in a duffel bag or a paper bag. Like, it's different now. And I think we're seeing, when it comes to, it's not just high school. Like, the high school market is one thing, Chad, but then I'm also talking about the transfer portal market, where players that are established, I could see making good money. Not like that, but good money. Like Jordan Addison, let's say, USC, right when he signed with them after leaving Pittsburgh, he comes out with a bunch of different NIL deals. I think United Airlines was one of them. We all remember the pick on the runway, but he made good money at USC, and he made good money because he had already proven himself. I think where it kind of shifts back in the kind of the way you're talking about is these high school kids making this amount of money, because there's no reason, in my opinion, that a young man should be making over $260,000 a month, and you have not thrown a pass in a competitive football game. I'm not talking about spring practice. I'm not talking about a spring game. I'm talking about lining up under center and going up against an SEC team. Go prove yourself. So it's a little bit like a glare on college football. But, Chad, I do think that they're going to kind of wrangle this back in a little bit, and you could see where the market was. But I feel like this was also a one-off, because you had a Miami booster and you had a Florida booster, and they were getting into a pissing contest with each other. And finally, the Florida booster said, well, you know what? I'm going to outbid for you. I'm going to get Jaden Rashada. Well, when it came time for that booster to say, okay, here's your money, he backed out. And that's where it gets to a point where we have to wonder, okay, who do we let in the inner circles? Who do we trust to give this type of money? I think in this situation with Florida, it's a little different than others, but I agree with you, Chad. I think it resets the market a little bit of what we look at, just because it was so ludicrous.
Trey, what do you think of the Tommy Rees hire at Alabama as their new offensive coordinator? And does it even matter at Alabama with their players and what we've seen with the amount of offensive coordinators that have rolled through that program?
You know, I was talking with a couple coaches down at the Senior Bowl last week, and what they had told me about Tommy Rees is it doesn't matter really who the offensive coordinator is, as long as you are good enough. And I'm talking about that lane, that Steve Sarkisian. Tommy Rees knows what he's doing. He did it at Notre Dame. Maybe not the numbers everybody was excited about, but he did it at Notre Dame. You're going down there and you're running what Nick Saban wants you to run. Now, you can throw your little, ticky-tacks in there, your plays, maybe change things up just a little bit, but you're going down there and what Nick Saban wants you to run, whether that's power I, whether that's flanking out 3 wide receivers, it doesn't matter. Nick Saban already has a system in place at Alabama for his offense. Now, I think you're going to see maybe some more power running from Alabama, I think, under this Tommy Rees offense, because I think Nick Saban, with the class that they have and the players that they're returning, that would be a smart move by them. But I also look at it in the sense of he could have gone out and hired Dan Mullen or anybody else you can think of. It was always still going to be in that meeting room. Okay, this is what I want on offense. This helps us out in both ways on defense as well. So go do it. You can throw some wrinkles in there, but go do it. So I like the hire. It probably could have gone out and gotten somebody a little different. They were turned down by Ryan Grubb from Washington. So I'm interested to see how this plays out over the next couple months before spring practice in Tuscaloosa.
And Kevin Steele as defensive coordinator, to me, just makes a lot of sense. And Trey, what does it also tell us about the hireability right now of Jeremy Pruitt, or lack thereof?
First on Kevin Steele, I think that Nick Saban wanted somebody he was familiar with, wanted somebody that knows he can come in, is going to run the defense that he wants him to run, knows the system, knows the play calls. That's what Kevin Steele does. It might not be a sexy hire to folks down in Alabama, but he'll at least come in there and run what Saban wants him to run. He'll run a good defense. He can go out and recruit. I think that with the players that they have, I think it kind of helps. It's hard comparing numbers like what Miami did last year. It's like, that's pretty hard to do. Go back and look when he was the Auburn defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator. I feel like right now, Alabama fans are like, okay, these are some interesting hires. Why is it happening? This is not like normal where we go get the real hot shot. But you weren't going to hire Jeremy Pruitt. Okay. I think for a little bit there, Nick Saban was pressing that issue. But it wasn't going to happen. Nick Saban would have had to gone in front of the NCAA, the SEC, made a case for why Jeremy Pruitt should be on his staff. And you know what? It's just not worth it because he's not hireable right now. Everything that he had did and done at Tennessee, it's going to play out over the next, in my opinion, 5-6 months when it comes to what a potential show cause could be. And then there could be litigation. But there was nothing he could say to Greg Sankey, in my opinion, that would have been like, okay, well, yeah, you can bring him in. That's fine. He can be your defensive coordinator. He can go on the road and recruit. Well, a lot of his stuff came from recruiting violations. So It wasn't going to happen with Jeremy Pruitt. A lot of Alabama fans got upset about it. But what Nick Saban did was he went down and got like the older Jeremy Pruitt, who already knew the system, and he's going to do the same thing that Pruitt would have done.
Are you surprised that we haven't seen, as among the offseason headlines in Bama, Trey, quarterback edition as a part of this? And is what they have who they're going with, or are we going to see something after the spring? Like, what are you hearing? What do you know?
Yeah, and talk with a couple of folks, during that process, during that transfer portal process, and when Alabama did not get a quarterback, you're like, okay, all right, this is interesting. We're putting all of our money on Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. I think that some folks think that they're going to go get a quarterback after the spring is over during that period. I think that could happen. Let's not forget, Nick Saban does go out and get graduate transfers, transfer portal guys that can fit his system. You look at running back last year. They had a hole to fill at running back. What did he do? He went out, got Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech. I feel like right now that they've got to see what they've got in the spring practice with Simpson or Milroe or anybody else on that roster and see if they can put something together. If not, then yes, I think the transfer portal period that opens up, I think that they go out and they try to find somebody that can run the system, like a Bryce Young or a Tua or a Jalen Hurts. And I just don't know if they have that on that roster right now.
So let's talk a little SEC basketball right now. Tennessee and Auburn played an absolute rock fight on Saturday, 46-43. Tennessee has hit a part right now in their schedule where they just simply cannot score these last two games. But, Trey, I've seen this team score before. We saw it against Texas the week before. Do you think this is indicative of what's to come for this team in March? Or is this just something that happens over the course of a long season where they've hit a tough little stretch and that they're eventually going to come out of it offensively? Because the one constant they've had all year is their defense.
I mean, it's scaring everybody that wears orange wherever they go. All Tennessee fans looking at the offensive production right now. Defense is good. Even what they did against Kentucky, that was good defense. The Auburn, the way that they shot, but Tennessee was putting a lot of pressure on the ball. So it's hard because Tennessee goes on these dry spells. And you saw it down in Gainesville where Florida went on two different runs that were like 17-2, and Tennessee was caught in a situation where they're having to try to stop the bleeding. Okay, well, if you're cold from behind the arc or you're not getting anything from the post from Euros or Olivier, you're kind of screwed because there's only so much Zakai Ziegler. If Tyreek Key is not hitting some shots, and they've locked down the post, it's difficult for Tennessee, but they fall back on their defense. So and its perfect example was the Auburn game. Yeah, the offense wasn't flowing, but you locked down, you ended up winning the game, and you get out of there with an SEC win. I think that when it comes time for March, if you're a Tennessee fan, you just have to pray that you don't go on a dry spell like you've done in previous matchups. I think that's the key thing here. You can't abandon what you're doing down in the post to try to get somebody hot outside the arc like Santi or whether that be Zakai, and what they're getting from Julian Phillips. And, I feel like this squad is good enough, but it also lingers in the back of my head where we've seen this team go on droughts in the past and it's cost them in the NCAA tournament or it's cost them in the SEC tournament, not last year, but it's cost them in the past. So I'm very curious to see how the shooting gets better over the next couple of weeks. If they can figure it out, get the right rotation coming off the bench, then it's a dangerous team, Chad. But if not, they're going to be at home on the second weekend of March if they don't figure this offense out. And
Chad, like you said, avoid the upset in the tournament by finishing season strong to where you're not paired up with a 7 seed or a 11 seed that is also slumping a bit, working their way in, and then winning their way into the tournament as a bubble, and then they're on fire.
It's going to be so much about matchups, but I do think it sounds simplistic, but Tennessee's got to have guys that just hit open shots. Zakai Ziegler going 0 for 7 from 3, can't happen like what happened on Saturday. And I've heard Rick Barnes say this before, Trey. We don't want to run offense. We want to play offense. is kind of the way they view it. You know, we run things defensively, and we're doing a lot of different things defensively in terms of what they stress. And he's talked about how it's hard to play offense because of the effort they're putting forth on defense. But I don't see a team these last two games that look comfortable playing offense, right? If we're going with what Rick Barnes is saying, and a big part of that is they got a 5-star freshman in Julian Phillips that's going to have to do something to take over games. At some point, he just doesn't look comfortable attempting to do that right now.
He's got to turn into the monster that they thought he was coming in, and I know it takes a minute to get going, and I get that, but when folks lock down on Sakai, when folks lock down on Santi, or they get cold, you know, you're relying on Triple J, you know, to get to the basket or to hit that 15-foot jumper. Every now and then hit something from behind the arc, and if you're not getting that from your top three scorers, okay, it gets in a situation where you need Julian Phillips to step up and be able to attack the rim or hit some mid-range shots. And right now, the Tennessee offense, I feel like, is still trying to navigate around those situations when it comes to Phillips. So he's going to be key down the stretch, just like Tyreek Key is going to be down the stretch. Like, they need those two if they're going to make that deep run in March, and maybe they get hot here over the next couple of weeks before we get to the SEC tournament right there in Nashville. But as we sit here right now, you know, let's see what Tennessee does this week. Let's see what they do when it comes to Alabama and Kentucky. And then I got a feeling they can turn this thing around offensively, but it's going to take some work from all of them.
Trey Wallace, OutKick.com is where you can read his work on all things SEC and more. Trey, have a great week. Thank you for the time, and we'll catch up next week post-Super Bowl.
Hey, guys, have a great Super Bowl week. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Trey.
Man. Again, Trey Wallace, OutKick SEC reporter. Read his work at OutKick.com. Chad, you mentioned the tournament coming up in Nashville for the SEC. That should be a good tournament based on the way we're seeing the conference right now.
Yeah.
Just for the conference tournament, I'm saying, not top to bottom conference play. The competitiveness is very good.
Yeah, 1 through 6. If you're looking at those top 4 teams to get the double bye, it's Alabama at 10-0. Tennessee and Texas A&M at 8-2, Auburn and Kentucky at 7-3, Florida right there at 6-4. Then you've got Missouri and Arkansas at 5-5. Arkansas is doing exactly what they did a year ago under Eric Musselman. Started out terrible. They were 0-3 in the SEC and got hot. They were 1-5 in the SEC, and now they're 5-5. So they are coming on again at the right time. It's going to be a fun tournament. You know, there's a couple of really bad teams at the bottom of the conference, but outside of that, you've got a bunch of teams that could beat other ones that's coming to Nashville for that SEC tournament. Should be fun.
Coming up in about 10 minutes or so, Logan Ryan will join us, Super Bowl champ at corner, former teammate of Tom Brady. He'll reflect on Brady's career, stories behind the scenes, and more. Coming back, though, the intimidating saga of Ja Morant's entourage. Next on OutKick 360.
I witnessed, you know, Dennis Price and Sea Spray and all these people just do such amazing things, and we continue to get asked about Afghanistan and what we didn't do in Ukraine. Like, why would you, like, beyond Aziz, it's no brainer why I would go help Aziz. Why would we continue to help these people? And you know, I think the easy answer is it's the right thing to do. Like, I mean, when the governments of the world completely failed, including our own, it was very discouraging. But what brought me hope was to see that when the governments of the world failed, good people stood up and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me, because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And you know, one of the things myself and Sea Spray were asking in this interview was, you know, why would you do it? And of course we said, because it's the right thing to do. But Sea Spray was asked a question that I think is important that we can all learn from. He was asked, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing. And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, like, I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI. Like, what are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? But it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans, and I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world could learn something from this. That there is hope. That there's good people around who will stand up and do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, "Hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money?" And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, "Hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it." And I was like, "Oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something?" They said, "No, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization, and we can't give you that money." And I said, "Okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right?" And we kind of laughed and moved forward, and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, like nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be like just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. Everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story is represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. It started in February. We had ceasefires on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up, and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
OutKick 360 rolls on. Coming up in hour number 3, Mike Gunzelman, Gun Show.
Oh, the Gun Show.
Column at OutKick about the acts, the Super Bowl halftime performers who have not performed yet that would be really good, who we would like to see. He's got the top 5. We'll dive into that. Plus, Logan Ryan joins us to kick off the hour. First, though, the saga of the Ja Morant entourage, and going back to what happened with the Pacers game, where the NBA reportedly investigated Morant for threatening members of the Pacers after their game, taunting personnel, flashing them with like a red dot laser sight, which was believed to be attached to a gun.
Yep.
Craziness. And this goes back to like our conversation with Shannon Sharp and what happened with Ja Morant's father, T, on the baseline in that game. That seemed like good-natured, trash talk at the time. And then fast forward a week and this story pops.
Yeah, who knew that Shannon Sharp was possibly in peril with that
crazy.
based on this story. It's really bad. I don't want to make light of it because it does seem like Ja Morant, and maybe he's a part of this also, but I keep thinking about watching this Ravens documentary. There's a lot in there about Ray Lewis.
Sure.
And we know the story of Ray Lewis. He was with a group of people who stabbed and killed 2 people. And he turned on his friends in trial to not be prosecuted for what happened. I don't want to be an extremist here, but this is where these things end up if it's not stopped. So if Ja Morant if it's his dad or his brother or buddies he's hanging out with that's pointing a gun and a laser pointer at someone, then that's a problem. And it's going to end with something very, very bad happening that could not only end lives, but end any chance Ja Morant has at a future career moving forward in the NBA. So he's going to have to remedy this problem one way or the other, because this is a very alarming story coming out of the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the unnamed coaches said that we felt like we were in quote-unquote grave danger. I mean, if you got a sight pointed on you, I would expect that would be the reaction. Look, I mean, it's crazy because there's something new with this every week. Not necessarily with the Grizzlies-Pacers story, but with Morant or his father, the entourage, everything involved in this. There are more questions than there are answers, where the NBA concluded that the altercation did occur with Morant and his group, but there was no proof that a weapon was actually there. They didn't dispute the laser, but they couldn't prove that a weapon was there. Again, I'm with you, Chad. There has to be further conversations behind the scenes. I would hope there have been.
And it's really hard to just break away from family.
Sure.
Or tell your dad and your brother or whoever else, like, you can't go to games anymore. His brother's been kicked out of the arena in Memphis, so he can't go to games anymore there. But don't travel to road games to watch me play. You're not a part of this anymore. That's going to be very tough. I think we've reached the point of that. When you combined the whole Shannon Sharp episode now with this, I'm not in Ja Morant's ear, but if I was his agent or advisor or whoever, I'd say they don't need to be around you anymore unless it's on your terms away from your job. This is your job. You are paid highly to play NBA basketball. They don't need to be at games. They don't need to be causing disruptions doing this. You need to separate from them in that way. I'm not saying disown your family, but in this part of it, it can't be a factor anymore for him. Can't be.
Well, and it doesn't matter where he is in the pecking order of a roster. I don't want to come across this way. He's an MVP caliber player.
Yes.
He's
a true superstar.
Yes. And the career that can be undermined by this is, I mean, it's sad to watch this. Like his response, his tweet was, did an investigation, seen they were capping, still let an article come out to paint this negative image on me and my family. Banned my brother from home games for a year. Unbelievable. Again, he thinks that they're, undermining him, not the other way around. Yeah, craziness.
It's going to be a problem. And that response is a huge issue.
I think so.
That's a huge issue. And this is not going to go away. And I just pray that this does not end up like the Ray Lewis story in 1999 in Atlanta, outside of a nightclub, with Ja Morant and his entourage.
Coming up, we will speak with Logan Ryan, Buccaneers corner, former teammate of Brady. And we hosted a show with him, the Logan Ryan
We
show,
did indeed.
at one point.
And it was a lot of
our
fun.
careers. It was a blast. He's always great with perspective and analysis. We'll get the breakdown from his vantage point of both quarterbacks, wide receiving cores, and more. We'll also reflect on the career of Tom Brady and the relationship that they had with each other as teammates for many years throughout their careers. And we will also have Mike Gunzelman, in studio with us here at 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hang with us. A lot more coming on OutKick 360. Hour 3's next across the OutKick network.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking that we're going to be practicing the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point it felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Just like that, the final hour is here. Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us across the OutKick network. Withrow and Hutton with you. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We got the Gun Show. Mike G. Gunzelman from OutKick. He's going to join us in the studio in about 20 minutes. And Chad, an hour from now, we head to Phoenix, Super Bowl 57.
About to be on our way, Hutton. We've reached the home stretch before we head to the desert, where my allergies are always miraculously cured. There will be a day where I move to the desert because the only place that my allergies don't attack me. So get ready for that.
We, it doesn't feel that long ago, but it was a few years back. We had the Logan Ryan show, which was epic. And anytime we have the chance to catch up with the corner, the defensive back, the philanthropist, and the top 5
Renaissance man,
a top 5 tackler in NFL playoff history.
Wow.
Saw this list recently. Number 1's Ray Lewis, and then Logan Ryan is in the top 5. He joins us now. Logan, great to have you back on the show, man. Your show for at least 15 minutes or so. How are things?
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Top 5's legit. I mean, that means you've played in plenty of playoff games. Congratulations.
Did you know that fact, Logan, before Hutton said it?
No idea. I saw a graphic. I sent it to Hutton. Because I was surprised. I knew I played in a lot of playoff games. I know I've been productive in the playoffs, but I think it was a cool stat anytime, all time. You know, they started tracking in 92 or 94 or something, but not a lot of DBs on that list. I could be the lightest guy on that list. So you could say pound for pound, I'm the greatest playoff tackler. But, you know, pretty awesome. Elite company, obviously, ahead of Rabel on there. So that's some bragging rights as well.
Well, okay. So Ray Lewis is number 1. He's the king, right? Crown him.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bobby Wagner, Teddy Bruschi, Logan Ryan, and Devin McCourty. So are you lighter than Devin McCourty?
At his old age, he might be, frailing away a little bit. But we're around the same weight. I would say I might have been a little bit lighter at the combine than him. Both former corners.
Yep.
Played safety. So I would say 2 of the top 5 greatest playoff tacklers, both from Rutgers. What do you know?
There you go. And yeah, you can take the pound for pound title. I'm fine with that. It's a toss up, but yes, it works. And Logan joins us. You can check out the Ryan Animal Rescue Foundation as well. We'll get to that in a moment. Tom Brady announces his retirement on February 1st. And I immediately thought of our visit that you had with us when you were here in Nashville for camp with the joint practice because Brady wasn't here. And you legitimately said, guys, I have no update. I don't really know about this process. And then I tied it in with the fact that you had the football sign on the pick 6 that you had, the final pass attempt for him in Foxborough. Former teammate, you're playing with the Titans, wild card round, game over, and you had him sign it. Did you get some sense this season that this could be it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't know how you can ever say that this season could be like retirement, is it? Because he retired previously and came back from retirement. So you didn't know, but I think for sure you felt like there was some finality there in Tampa and he was going to take his time and think of all possible outcomes this offseason. And I know his family, being, a great father and working on that relationship with his family was definitely paramount and precedent for him. And I just got to see all type of angles of him this year, especially, off the field.
Well, was it, this year in terms of, you said you got to see different angles of him this year. He's obviously locked in, when he's there playing football and preparing and doing all of that. But what was different about this year, other than obviously the personal stuff that he stepped aside from training camp? We talked to you about when you were here in Nashville with training camp. But what was there a big difference with him on the football side of it that you could see?
No, I mean, he continued to put all that time in. I think the reason why I saw a difference is because of my maturity and growth and being an older player in the NFL and being one of his closest allies on the team. When I got drafted to New England, I was a teammate of his. I played with the best player. Literally every day he stepped on the field, he was the best player in the world. Every game he was the best player. He won multiple MVPs. We won multiple championships. I got to see, that prime, I mean, he's still in his prime. It's crazy, but I got to see it every single day, like undoubtedly the best player in the league. And then, you know, when I went to Tennessee, I got to compete against him, 2 playoff games in 3 years, multiple practices, multiple regular season games. So I knew what it was like from practice, what it was going to be like to compete. And I helped my teammates in Tennessee, like, no, we got to bring it every down. We got to beat them on the biggest stage at Foxborough, obviously his last game in New England. And then I got to be his teammate. But now I think I'm a father now. He's a father, obviously. So I got to see more of the personal side off the field of our families getting together, hanging out at the animal shelter, just talking about life bigger than football. And I think just my age and my maturity got me to see that side of him. On terms of on the field, his preparation is always the same. Tons of work on his body, tons of film study, tons of preparation. He definitely did everything the same in that form or fashion. I just think he opened up to me more personally than years past.
Yeah, Logan, let's compare that young Logan Ryan coming into the league and, you know, meeting Tom Brady for the first time and being on his team and observing him. And when you see young guys come into a locker room and you're a teammate with Tom Brady, as you become older, do you see a little bit of yourself in those young players with how they look at Tom Brady, how they interact with him, and knowing what you know now about him and being his teammate? How does that sort of change things for you when you talk to younger players about interacting with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I learned a lot from him when I was young. I remember just trying to introduce myself. I was nervous, man. I had a Tom Brady jersey growing up, and I was a quarterback growing up. And I just, you know, I watched the Patriots. Not they were my favorite team, but I've always respected them and whatnot, and watch them beat teams that I liked all the time. And their greatness, it was like the San Antonio Spurs or something like that, just like whoever they put in. And I remember being really nervous, like going up to him, and he introduced himself. He was like, "Hey, I'm Tom Brady, the quarterback here, and I know, Logan, we drafted you in the 3rd round, and we really need you. And anything you need, I'm here early. You know, I'm here late, so I'm always around." Like, kind of introduce himself and the humility to do that. And I think I learned then and there, you know, as a veteran, that I always try to, you know, be a helping hand to the young guys. I don't do too much hazing. I'm not too hard on Adoree when he was a rookie. I actually protected him a lot when he was a rookie from media and whatnot. And just be like, "Look, man, I'm not better than you. We need you to win. And I'm here to be a resource and be an open book." And I feel like he just, you know, that took that edge of, oh my God, I'm playing with Tom Brady off. I'm like, okay, this is a good guy. Like, and everyone used to ask me, especially when I was young, like, what's it like playing with Tom Brady? I'm like, he's a better person than you would think. And it's true. I mean, people say it, everyone who never says a bad thing about him, but it really is true.
You guys would talk some trash though in practice.
Oh man. It was like, and I thought that was like kind of normal. And I definitely talked a lot when I was in Tennessee, but that's kind of died down. I see guys do more like touchdown dances and celebrations, but they don't trash talk as much as, you know, I would say in my early days or some of those days. Like I'm a trash talking player. Tennessee, we had some trash talkers. New England, I mean, it's documented, me and Edelman, just practice stories of just going at it every day in practice. And the competitiveness of practice, truly, I can say some years in that New England team, practice was harder than the games. We would compete like we didn't win a game all year in practice, and we would go beat a team like Jacksonville 55-7, you know, and we would just dominate because practice was so competitive with Edelman's, with Gronk, with Devin McCourty's, Patrick Chung's, and Hightower. I remember being young, and Vince Wilfork was like, "Hey, boy, you don't want to come down this box. It's grown men business in this box." Talking about all those tackles. And he's like, "You don't want to come in those trenches." I was afraid to go in those trenches because there were really, really some grown men in there, and physicality and all that stuff. So a little bit of a different game now. I don't think the trenches are as scary, but those early New England days, it definitely was, practice was competitive.
From fearing the trenches to a top 5 playoff tackler, Logan Ryan with us on OutKick 360. Did you ever attempt to try the TB12 method?
Not like avocado ice cream only.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
But I
you dip your toes into it. You didn't go off the high dive straight into it. Is what you're saying.
Not fully. Not if something is so hard that it doesn't bring me joy, I'm not going to do it. But I read the book, and I definitely I believe in drinking all the water. that you need to drink. I drink like 100 ounces of water a day. And so I believe in the water intake, the electrolytes, and I just try to eat generally healthy in terms of, cutting out some fried foods and cutting dairy out and stuff like that here and there, but nothing too extreme.
Is it crazy to go to dinner with him because of that and what he'll order or what he can't have or refuses to have?
I think there's different seasons of Tom. Like, I don't even think you're going to catch him in dinner during the season. Like, he's not even going to go out to dinner. But post Super Bowl, Tom, like Super Bowl party afterwards, you might see him, drink an adult beverage. You might see him eat a piece of chocolate. You might see something a little off.
Chocolate. I love that.
Jalapeno poppers.
Of his drink.
Does he ever go to anything fried, like fried shrimp at the buffet? He's not going to touch that, though.
Oh, no. That's a sin. He never did that.
Logan, could you see the promise with this Giants team, with the right direction that we saw cap off this year with a playoff trip when you were playing with the Giants a year ago?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I'd be surprised again. Oh, I knew they would make the playoffs or anything like that. You never know that, But I think they were healthier this year. I think Daniel Jones was healthy the entire year. Saquon went back to form. And when I got to practice the first day of the Giants, I immediately saw Saquon like, okay, this is one of the better football players I ever played with. Just talent level, just size, speed, jump cut ability, athleticism. Like, he pops. He stands out. You see why he's a top pick. Like, you would say, like, okay, this guy's probably one of the best players of football. It's like Derek. When Derek hit his stride, you're like, okay, this guy's different. That's what Saquon was like. So I think it's kind of riding the power of Derek. When Derek hit his form, Tennessee got a lot better. And I think that was Saquon being healthy the entire year. And that was a huge difference. And the 2 years I was in New York, Saquon wasn't healthy. He tore his ACL early. The first year I was there, and the second year he really wasn't healthy. Daniel wasn't really healthy. So I just think those guys, the quarterback and the running back being healthy, helped the offensive production. And I think the defense in New York was always solid. It was solid when I was there, and I think it was solid, obviously, this year. And Wink Martindale, just a aggressive Ravens coordinator, all out blitzing and stuff. That puts offenses to only run certain plays against that all out pressure. You see Miami do it. You see certain teams do it, and it makes it really simple on defense, and it makes it complicated for that quarterback on offense. So you can beat some teams you have no business beating when you're able to pressure as often as they do. And that's what they did this year. And I think they had a good year, good coaching, and some good players. So I definitely saw the talent was there, just staying healthy and putting it all together.
Super Bowl champ Logan Ryan with us on OutKick 360. What is not the trick? What's the method of going about to try and to defend Travis Kelce in this Chiefs offense? It seems as though sometimes game plans aren't focused on him. I'm sure they are. They have to be. But yet Mahomes and Kelce continue to just post numbers that are just ridiculous in the big moments.
Yeah, I think Tampa had an amazing game plan a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. And that's to be able to rush to, get to the passer with four rushers. They're able to rush with four and able to play coverage back when they had Tyreek Hill and all that, double him. But, Levante David did a ridiculously great job on Travis Kelce in that Super Bowl. And I don't know how many linebackers can cover like Levante David can and what he did in that game. That's what allowed Tampa to win a Super Bowl, the pass rush on Levante David. But I think especially with Tyreek Hill going, you got to take Travis Kelce away. I mean, he's the key to it. However, if you commit too much to him, it can open up some other options. But I think it starts and stops with taking him away. And what you got to understand is how much of what he's doing out there is made up. It's scripted with Andy Reid, but he's doing a lot of going rogue, and Mahomes is finding him, kind of busting routes off and finding space. And he's just a great nuanced player of understanding where to find the holes, the soft holes in the zone and stuff like that. So it's like a basketball player who might lose, the ability to explode to the rim. They're able to shoot fadeaway jumpers and stuff like that. And that's what Travis can do. If he's not getting open to man-to-man, he's able to find those holes in zone. And obviously Patrick goes to him a lot.
Logan, the way the salary cap is set up, Philly's not supposed to be this good at every position, really. It's remarkable about how they've built their roster and then how they've added pieces through free agency and hit on those guys.
Yeah, I I think when you can hit on free agency, that is, it's like the Rams last year, like when they're able to bring in those free agent pieces, and they just got like such a talented team. And I think, Philly, like when you get James Bradbury for $10 million, I mean, I play with them. That's a bona fide number one, $20 million corner. They only got like 10 of them in the league, and Philly has 2 of them. When Detroit traded Darius Slay so many years ago, bad move by Detroit. Coach is fired, GM's now fired. Bona fide number one, only 10 of them in the world, and they got 2 of them. And then when you hit on a Hassan Reddick, his story is nuts, right? Philly guy, he has lead the league in sacks. That works. They've always had a great O-line, D-line. That's what the Eagles have had for the last couple of years. That's their nucleus. And when you have a good O-line, D-line, you're able to run the ball. You're able to stop your quarterback from being pressured. It enables you to play the game on your terms. And I know we love skill players and stuff like that, but the O-line, D-line, what's helps Philly set up, and they got all these skill players for cheap. The A.J. Brown,
Yep.
Hit on a trade. The GM got fired. Don't know if that was the best move, but A.J. Brown is obviously a number one, only 10 of him in the world, and they're able to get him. And then I actually trained with Devontae Smith in Tampa. I was begging New York to draft him because he's different. He's a worker. He does all the little things right. He's like an old school wide receiver. Torrey Holt, going to play 15 years in this league because he just works that hard and is that skilled. And they end up hitting on him. So when you hit on your draft picks and you hit on your free agents, you're able to be a contender pretty quickly.
What's next year look like for you?
Oh, man. I'm going to be a free agent. So we'll see. I am a free agent. We'll see. I've accomplished a lot in my career, and I'm comfortable right now. I'm just taking time with my family and my wife and kids. And I'm sure you guys are seeing all over social media how much fun I'm doing that. But, I'm healed up off the foot. I'm feeling good, and we'll see what the opportunity brings. I couldn't tell you.
Well, and tell Ashley we said hello. And the Ryan Animal Rescue Foundation, I know it'll be jam-packed this summer with some events as well. Can't wait for that and the work you're doing. She did a great job, by the way, on the day of Brady's retirement, posting that from the account.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was great.
Because that was the viral moment, because it was Brady with the give back to the community.
Yeah, my wife, she's a really talented writer, and she just had a job writing for Disney, and she got chosen out of like 20 people out of 15,000 who applied to write Disney reviews and help people plan trips and all this stuff like that. And you have to be a really talented writer, obviously know Disney, in order to get that, 15 out of 20,000 or whatever is hard at any odds.
That's awesome.
So, she showed her side of Brady and what she saw of him and how she tries to judge things. She tells me often, and I think as a competitor, I don't think about it all the time. She said, being a good husband and good father, that counts on the scoreboard too. Because I look at tackles and interceptions and how many, you guys see 2-time Super Bowl champ, 10-year NFL vet, and those are numbers I care about. But I'm also like an all-world dad and a pretty good husband. So we don't give ourselves enough credit on that. And I think that's what she was trying to shine light on Brady. And she felt pretty bad when it blown up. She didn't necessarily want it to blow up or know if that was a good thing for that, if Brady wanted that shared or whatnot. But he reached out, his family reached out and said, thank you so much for showing that side of him, because it's truly who he is. And we weren't going to the shelter for any attention, obviously. We're just doing that to bond with our kids and to help out and volunteer and find time in our busy lives to volunteer. And it become a little thing that we bonded over, and our kids became close over. And no matter wins or losses, we were still there. And I think, for a quarterback in his last year and what's he going to do, and all eyes on him in his private life, I think it was pretty cool for him to do that.
Ryan Animal Rescue Foundation, for more, RARF.org for more details there and how to donate and help out the local shelters in your area. Logan, appreciate it as always, man. Next time you're in Nashville, swing by, and hopefully we'll connect over the off season.
Appreciate you guys. Enjoy Phoenix. And it was a pleasure, man. Whenever you guys want me, I'll be on.
Thanks,
appreciate
Logan.
You, bro.
Really appreciate you.
Real Logan Ryan on social is where you can find him. Great guy. My favorite. And Chad, great.
He is real.
Yeah,
he is real. That's a good way to describe him, too, with real Logan Ryan.
Logan's real. Mike G brings the energy, the gun show. And when we come back, he's worked a piece for OutKick where he's taking a look at the halftime shows that should be on the horizon based on who hasn't played that would be great. We'll discuss. That's next on OutKick 360.
It's so crazy because Tom Brady is just a touch older than me. I believe now there are no NFL players older than me, which that's the first time in my life I can say that.
Okay.
So now I feel really old. Now I feel truly and really old.
I'm sorry, man. God, that's horrible. I didn't know that feeling. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
there's
I
a punter
apologize.
or a kicker. I have to check. Maybe I'm hoping there's like an old, like a long time punter, kicker, or a long snapper that's older than me, but I don't think so. And it's amazing to me thinking about Brady the last few years. Like, I know how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I can't even imagine attempting to play in the NFL like this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, I don't even know if last season should have happened, but that's not up for me. It's not for anybody to sit there and argue.
I don't have the drive Tom Brady has. I'm very willing to admit that.
Right.
It seemed to me, just as an outsider with no inside information whatsoever, that he retired and that he engaged in normal life for the first time in a long time. I was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm getting back to the NFL.
I don't like the daycare thing. I love my kids, but I don't like dropping it off. I don't want to go play pickleball at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, let's get back to normal. But it'd be interesting. Like you know, I don't know if we'll see another quarterback take it that far, Andy, in the NFL. Like, he really pushed the
Aaron
limits,
Rodgers,
right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers going to be 39. You got him hinting at retirement now, and it does feel like the game's maybe taking a little more toll on his body than Brady. Maybe there's some ayahuasca that'll fix that, but it's crazy that it lasted this long. I mean, I think back to how much my life, I graduated college in 2000, and working my first job, watching Tom Brady lead the Patriots when they were the underdogs to the win against the Rams in the Super Bowl, and thinking, well, that's a cool story. 6th round guy, hope the career works out for him. And the level of winning and just consistency, I'm not sure we're going to see it again.
No. And I don't, especially with a quarterback who has that tenacity, he also puts in everything into the game. Like, it's like he can't take a breather. And it just, he has a different workflow. It kind of reminded me of what Kobe Bryant used to do in the NBA. Or you can go on and name them on. But now, but I'm interested to see now, what that looks like in the future, and does this, and I'll ask you this, because this news could break while we're down here in Mobile. Todd Monken, Georgia offensive coordinator. Does this make room for him now to potentially say, okay, I can go to Tampa, we can go find a quarterback that works for me in my system, and maybe take over the offensive coordinator position? What have your thoughts been on the Monken Buccaneer stuff?
Are you ready for Stetson Bennett as the Buccaneers starting quarterback? Are we ready to live in a world where Stetson Bennett makes that pirate ship go boom? Can
I'm
that
excited.
happen?
It can in the 6th round.
It's very interesting because, Monken, I think, you look at that tenure with Jameis Winston in Tampa, it didn't go as well as anybody would have wanted. And maybe Monken going, well, if I had a different quarterback, one who didn't put the ball in harm's way as often, perhaps that works out.
6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you. Big thanks to Logan Ryan for joining us. Chad, it's time to pump the energy into the room.
Spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, pump some iron. The Gunz Show.
We're in the final
here.
hour. It's time to mix it up.
That's right.
That's why we
back
brought
in studio with us, Mike Gunzelman from OutKick.com. Welcome back.
Always a pleasure, fellas. Always a pleasure. Super Bowl week. Let's go.
We're almost there. We're about to be airborne.
Yeah, we can't wait. So you've got a piece that's about to post as we speak, I believe, at OutKick.
Yeah.
The best acts to not perform at the Super Bowl halftime show. You've got a top 5 for us. Give us the premise, and then we'll help you count it down.
So here's the thing. Obviously, some people tune into the Super Bowl for the game itself, all right? Some people tune in for the commercials and the food aspect at home and all of that stuff. And there's a lot of people that will also tune in specifically for the halftime show. And, of course, there's been some greats, but there's also been some questionable performances throughout the years. We'll have Rihanna doing this year's Super Bowl halftime show, kind of, you know what I mean? Am I really excited to see Rihanna? Sure, she's got some hits, but I think there's some other artists that could do better, or hopefully will do better. So I did a top 5 list, fellas.
Well, before we get into that top 5, let me ask you this first opening question.
Yeah.
Would Rihanna have appeared in this top 5 had she not been slated to perform this year's halftime
Absolutely
show?
not.
Okay, good.
Absolutely
good.
not.
I already like this list more than
I'm excited
That's
to
what
watch.
I need to know.
I'm excited to watch Rihanna, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Listen, she's fine. She got some hits throughout the years, but I made a list, and here's the criteria for it, all right? So everyone's going to have their own opinions and whatnot, but you need to take a step back, all right? Just because it might be your favorite band, this is the Super Bowl halftime show. This is the biggest stage of them all. So you have to go, in my mind, about songs that people will recognize, all right? And you also have to kind of cross generations.
Mass appeal. You
need
mass
appeal.
Yes.
That's what we're going for here on the Gun Show Top 5, all right?
And this
Five-finger death punch is not going to perform
right, unfortunately. Great show, great band.
What you think about them, they're not going to be headlining halftime of the Super Bowl.
So I'm out on Creed. Creed is what you're saying. Right? Creed's not going to.
Guster will never perform.
Love Guster, right? Yeah, probably not a mass appeal at the Super Bowl.
I love Guster too, but they're not going to be there.
And am I right in thinking the premise is they have never performed before?
All
right?
5 of these artists, surprisingly, I might have some surprises for you, have never played the Super Bowl halftime show before.
All right.
Ready to kick it off?
Gun Show top 5 best acts to not perform
that
at
we
a
need
Super
to
Bowl.
play.
That needs to play
Super Bowl
starting next season. All right, let's hear it. Starting with number 5.
Number 5, I'm going with Oasis. All right. I know the brothers don't talk to each other, but here's the deal. Liam, Noel, get with it, all right? Nobody cares about your side projects. Nobody's going to any of those shows being like, oh, yeah, I really like what you're doing now. No, it's all about Oasis. You cannot tell me that if Oasis gets back together, that they would not crush the Super Bowl halftime show. You want to know how I know this? Champagne Supernova, to Don't Look Back in Anger, to probably, without a doubt, one of the all-time greatest sing-along songs in Wonderwall.
Yes.
When they end on Wonderwall, you will have the stadium losing their minds. You will have every bar in America screaming, crying, throwing beer. From the bars to the living room couches, Wonderwall would be a massive, monumental hit. Oasis at number 5.
Chad, your thoughts?
Hutton, who gets back together quicker, Liam and Noel or Aaron Rodgers and his family?
Wow.
What's the most likely to happen for a reunion? The Rodgers brothers
or the Gallaghers?
Or the Gallaghers.
The Gallaghers.
I love this. I think that's I love Oasis also, but mass appeal. People know the songs. The reunion element to it would be great. I'm all for this. And once I heard the name, honestly, Gunz, I'm shocked it's number 5. So I can't wait to hear 4 through 1.
Yes. Who was number 6? Who just missed? Can you say
that? Rihanna actually not performed. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Dashboard Confessional was number 6.
I love Dashboards. My God. Emo music.
So Oasis number 5.
Yeah.
Who beats them out at 4?
All right. So the Oasis is at 5 because there is that realistic sense to it. You know what I mean? First, I got to get them to talk to each other. Listen, you can put Noel on one side of the end zone and then put Liam on the other side. They don't even have to look at each other or get along. Just play the show. But number 4, I'm coming in with the Foo Fighters.
Yes.
I think the Foo Fighters, listen, right now the rock music genre is it's getting back more mainstream. Thank God that we actually have people that play guitars and play drums and all that. The Foo Fighters are the band that will be able to do this. Now I understand, listen, unfortunately Taylor Hawkins passed away, one of the greatest drummers right now, original member of the Foo Fighters. He passed away last year, but the band did announce, and they've already had them lined up, that they are touring again this year. They are back to playing shows. They're doing a lot of festivals. They're doing headliner shows and more. The Foo Fighters, think about these songs. Everything from like Times Like These to Best of You to Everlong to Monkey Wrench to so many songs. I feel like Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters would rock it. And also be able to bring out maybe some cameos, maybe like the guitarist from Queen or something. You know, bring out some people for specific songs. The Foo Fighters would jam out. And to end on Everlong, one of the most amazing songs.
Do you end on Everlong or Smells Like Teen Spirit from Nirvana because it's Dave Grohl?
Right? That Nirvana ass.
Again, I'm in.
Kurt Cobain hologram? Anyone? You gonna have that also? Too soon? Too soon? No, I love that. It's the last great American rock band, I feel like, is Foo Fighters.
Yeah, well said.
If you're talking about true American rock bands, it's Foo Fighters. I watched Foo Fighters, Hutton, New York City Super Bowl, the Friday night of the Super Bowl, or maybe the Saturday before. Anheuser-Busch had a party, and Foo Fighters headlined the party. It was on a ship in the whatever New York City.
Hudson, the Hudson River.
Yards.
Yeah.
Hudson Yards, and attended that. That
you and
party.
Clay?
Yeah, me and Clay Travis.
Woo,
yep,
that's
and
an
our
amazing
wives were
party.
there. It was awesome. They played for 2.5 hours at a Bud Light party before the Super Bowl. And having seen that and seen them in concert, they would be great.
Yeah.
Should we go to number 3 on the list?
Yes.
Now, number 3, I understand, listen, it might not be for everybody, but like I said, it is that mass appeal aspect, and I'm going with Jay-Z. All right? I'm going with Jay-Z because the fact is he's literally one of the best rappers of all time. He's never done the Super Bowl, and he's not getting up there in age, but it's still, if they're going to go that direction where they went from The Weeknd a couple years ago to a Rihanna, I think Jay would be the next logical, perhaps, step. All right? Jay-Z has a lot of hits. All right? Take whatever you might think of him personally out. Jay-Z, I think, needs to do a Super Bowl halftime show. He's an internationally recognizable star.
Well, they apparently asked him in 2020, and he turned it down because they wanted him to have surprise guests that included Rihanna and someone else. Maybe it was Kanye. They wanted Run This Town to have many surprise guests.
I don't think they'll be asking for Kanye anymore.
And Rihanna turned them down.
I'm just going to put that out there.
Rihanna's also someone they've circled back with because she turned them down as well. So Jay-Z's on the list with the NFL. This is something that I think happens in the next 3 years or so. Could happen next year in Vegas.
Like I said, I'm trying to do the realistic things that might happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
And he did not appear with Beyonce during her Super Bowl.
Beyonce did a couple years. It was just Beyonce. Jay did not come out with it. Think
He's
of all
never
those
appeared
songs.
with anyone, right?
Nope, he's
I
never
feel like
done.
he had been a special guest with someone, but he
never was. Yeah,
never appeared on stage.
And I honestly purposely believe that he did not do last year. Of course, you had Dr. Dre and Eminem and everybody last year, and Kendrick and Mary J. Blige. It was fun. You know, a lot of hits, of course, amongst them all. Jay wasn't out on that. Jay-Z has that star power that he can do it by himself. He comes out, I got 99 problems. Oh, my God. My headset falling off. Lose my mind.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Jay-Z's definitely the top 5 for sure.
Yeah. Number 2, my friends.
2.
It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. I'm talking about that Taylor Swift. The only reason Taylor Swift is number 2 is because I truly believe that it happens next year. I honestly believe that Taylor Swift is going to headline the Super Bowl next year because she is the biggest star in the world right now.
It's written in the stars that she has to do it.
It's possible now because it's no longer the Pepsi halftime show. She was with Coke, and that's what has prevented that partnership. And now it's the Apple?
Apple Music.
Apple Music.
Now it's the Apple Music halftime. So it's wide open for the NFL to have Taylor.
Has she
would
sued
crush
Apple
it.
Music? Who did she sue?
She
sued a lot of people, I think. She's very litigious.
It happens. The bottom line is I think she's on enough good terms with Apple Music that she can definitely do the... Yeah.
I mean, they're like, well, sure. Taylor Swift can do it.
And
sue us all you want.
And the biggest thing that Taylor Swift can do is...
Apple.
bridge that gap where you're bringing in that young audience into grandparents that are driving their grandchildren. They know all the hits. Everybody knows that We're Never Getting Back Together, into Bad Blood, into Shake It Off, into Romeo and Juliet. But how about this? Her first song
Tim
when
McGraw.
She was 16 years old was Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
Maybe Tim McGraw comes out and does like one of the choruses with her. Like that. It's America's darling. It is the pinnacle. It's Taylor Swift. One of the top 3. I would argue this. Top 3 most popular stars in the world right now. All right? Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, Bad Bunny, put them whichever way that you want. Maybe top 4, throw Beyonce in there. Taylor Swift would absolutely crush the Super Bowl because it has that mass appeal and would bring in whether you love her or hate her. The songs can be annoying at times. I think they're catchy as hell. Taylor Swift checks all the boxes off for Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift would be, it's a no-brainer. She's the biggest star.
She took down Ticketmaster. She took down Ticketmaster.
It should be number 1.
And
it should be number 1.
I'm curious about number 1 now. Now, here's what would piss me off. If she sang Tim McGraw or Tim McGraw came out like you said, way too much of America would go, who?
Oh, no.
There would be a lot of people saying, I don't know who that is.
Who's this guy with the
Tim
country
McGraw
hat?
Came out. Yeah, and that would
Cowboy hat.
That was someone from the state of Tennessee that would bother me to my core. That so many people would be like, I don't know who this is. I'm here to see Taylor Swift.
Oof.
Get this old man off the stage. That's what a lot of America would say, and that would insult my very being.
But then they'd immediately, Tim McGraw would be made again because Taylor is on stage with him.
They Google him and they're like, oh, he's in the Friday Night Lights movie version. That's what they know him for. I like the TV show, but he was in the movie.
So the no-brainer, your last 2 Gunz, no-brainers.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, Taylor Swift, and number 1?
Like I said, Taylor Swift should be 1, but I think it does happen sooner than later. So it's not really like a hoping for aspect for her because it's going to happen with Taylor Swift.
Should we try to guess, Jack? Because we haven't seen his list.
Yeah, you have not seen my list. Who do you think I go with number 1?
I think you may have mentioned them when you talked about the biggest stars. I'm going to guess Harry Styles.
So I was going to say Harry Styles or maybe Adele.
Or Marilyn Manson. What is going to be my other guess?
Maybe Adele.
Marilyn Manson.
I don't know which way I would turn other than that.
Marilyn Manson and Adele.
Yeah.
Basically the same genre
Limp
we're talking about.
Or Adele.
Yes, same genre. Sheryl Crow or Korn.
Hate breed. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Durst.
Yes. And here he comes, still rocking that red cap. Always.
All right, number 1.
Number 1. Harry Styles, honestly, probably should be up there, but I'm talking top 5 that personally mattered to me that I think would have that. Harry Styles is an international superstar, but I do not think, based on all the artists that I have announced so far, that the average person knows as many Harry Styles songs when you really think about it. He's massive, of course. But do you know, if I go name a Harry Styles song, do you really know one offhand right now?
Well, but it's so, again, this makes me sound old, and I am. When Bruno Mars did the halftime show, he just starts, it's 15 minutes of just his hits. You're like, oh, yeah, I know this.
Okay.
I think Harry Styles would be the same.
Harry Styles will probably have the same, where at least we've heard it when he starts playing it.
Listen, I'm a big Harry Styles fan.
I feel like you're building this up where we're going to hate number 1.
I know. I feel
you're doing a lot of, this is personal. This is very important to me personally.
21 Savage.
No, so, all right, so here's the deal.
Where are we going here? Because 5 through 2 has been terrific.
I know. You know what? Hopefully it's not a letdown, but here it is. The bottom line is he's never played, surprisingly. I was shocked. Billy Joel.
He's never played the halftime show.
Billy Joel has never played the halftime show, and I'm telling you that Billy Joel would absolutely crush it. It would be it would be a safe move for the Super Bowl, okay? It would be a safe given move, and it would bring in, I mean, you talk about all the hits, from Only the Good Die Young, to Moving Out, to Uptown Girl, to Piano Man, to all those songs. I feel like Billy Joel, he's getting up there in age, needs to play the Super Bowl halftime show before it's too late.
I'm just imagining. I like it. Billy Joel's a hit maker.
It's a safe bet, but like, you need him to do it. Everybody else has done it. The Who and Elton John, Paul McCartney, and like get him up there.
He's also written hits for other people he could play, so I'm fine. I'm just laughing at. You said the NFL don't have to worry about it. Billy Joel's just standing up there and he said, "Before I get started, I'd like to confirm that the NFL is rigged. Play me a song in the Piano Man." And he just launches into it. And I'm like,
let's go.
Like, what possible controversy could Billy Joel just shock everyone with when he gets up there?
So who else was considered? Did you consider Metallica?
So Metallica hasn't done it. I did consider Metallica, especially when I was getting into that Foo Fighters rock aspect. I don't think
every white
I don't
NFL
think it would
player
happen.
Would go nuts over
I honestly
Metallica.
don't.
I'll say that.
The
every lineman, to me, every white offensive lineman would love Metallica.
It's a very same crowd as Oasis, as crazy as that sounds. It's the same.
I think it's a little older even.
Yeah,
the Metallica crowd.
But it's
probably.
the same era, I guess, where if you that was a blend of all types of music and personalities, right? Like if you listen to Limp Bizkit,
Metallica could work.
You're also listening to Britney Spears.
It's one of those, I think, that like Harry Styles for me, that even people who don't think they're Metallica fans would hear the hits one after the other and say, "Oh, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this."
Do they? The thing is, and I agree with you. Listen, it's Metallica from Enter Sandman to give me fuel, give me fire, give me that desire. You know what I mean? Like they have the songs, but I don't know if right now that would be the direction that can happen. And once again, they're getting up there a little bit in age. So Metallica was considered.
Okay.
Another one, I thought Queen with Adam Lambert. Thought that was kind of a, Adam Lambert, of course, does a really good job with Queen. They've been doing all those different tributes and benefits for Queen Elizabeth, all that stuff. Like they do a tremendous job. So I did think of Queen, all the songs right there, of course, all the hits right there. And then the other one, and this would be probably 5.5 on my top 5. Garth.
I think Garth.
He would crush it.
Absolutely.
He would
close
crush
to the
it.
top of the list.
But will he?
And that's another one that everyone would know the songs, even if they, bitched and moaned about him being the choice. They would know it once he started playing.
I think he needs to do it. I don't know. Do you think the NFL is going to reach out to Garth Brooks to do it, though?
I don't know. In Vegas, the cards are on the table. I mean,
Can you imagine them? Can you imagine them leveraging Garth Brooks with Jay-Z on the phone? Jay, I've got Garth on the other line right now, and this guy's going to have a banger of a set. So if you don't say yes right now, Garth's in. I'd love both of them going back and forth on it. This was a good list, Gunz. You knocked it out of the park. I'll be reading the story, too.
I appreciate that. It's available right now on OutKick.com. But, of course, I got to ask you guys, what would your top act be? Who would you realistically, not even next year, but say within the next 3 years?
It's Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I understand your rationale for it, but number one should be Taylor Swift.
I would go Foo Fighters number 2.
I like Billy
list.
Joel in the top 5. If I like your top 5, so I'll just reorder it. I would go Taylor Swift, Oasis, Billy Joel, Jay-Z, and then who's the 5th I'm leaving out? Foo Fighters 5.
Foo Fighters.
Realistically.
Foo Fighters have put on a great show, though.
They'd be really good. All those acts would be good in that setting, I think.
Are you replacing any of them with Garth?
I mean, I would personally, but I understand why he's not in the top 5.
I could replace Oasis with Garth.
That would be my personal choice, Gunz. If I wanted to, personally, it'd be important to me, but I understand why the other 5 are ahead of him.
Yeah. And what's your top? Who do you got?
I would Taylor Swift's number 1 because that's the no-brainer appeal, the mass appeal that the NFL wants, right? And that Apple would want.
Right.
I would love to know how many people tune in just for Taylor Swift in the halftime.
All-time record.
It would break records.
Garth is a really good one. Foo Fighters number 2 for me. Jay-Z, easy. I mean that's a no-brainer where it's the same appeal with Taylor where you just need him, right? That you don't have to have all this all the mischief that goes on behind the scenes with negotiations with how you get people in there. So I like the top 5. Metallica would be somewhere in there too, just because of the pyro that could be halftime.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
burn it down.
This was a blast. Gunz, always welcome anytime, man.
Love you guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Crush it for us, all right?
Yeah, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
You can read more of Gunz and, of course, check out more of this list and give your opinion at the column.
Tweet us.
OutKick.com.
Tweet OutKick360 and everybody. Let us know who you would add to it.
And The Gun Show?
The Gun Show with a Z. G-U-N-Z.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
Tweet him.
More coming on OutKick 360.
I witnessed, Dennis Price and C-Spray and all these people just do such amazing things. And we continue to get asked about Afghanistan and what we didn't do in Ukraine. Like, why would you, beyond Aziz, it's no brainer why I would go help Aziz. Why would we continue to help these people? And, I think the easy answer is the right thing to do. When the governments of the world completely failed, including our own, it was very discouraging. But what brought me hope was to see that when the governments of the world failed, good people stood up and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And one of the things myself and C-Spray were asking in this interview was, why would you do it? And of course we said, because it's the right thing to do. But C-Spray was asked a question that I think is important that we can all learn from. He was asked, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing. And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, like I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI, like what are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? But it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans. And I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world could learn something from this, that there is hope, that there's good people around who will stand up and do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money? And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it. And I was like, oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something? They said, no, we're a Jewish organization. And Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization. And we can't give you that money. And I said, okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right? And we kind of laughed and moved forward and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, like nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be like just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. Everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. It started in February. We had sea sprayers on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And, one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
Wrapping up what's been a fun show, OutKick 360 from 6th and Peabody with E-Hop Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We are headed to Sky Harbor, Phoenix, is where we're flying into for the Super Bowl, Chad. And, some idiot decided to scale a skyscraper there today.
Speaking of Sky Harbor, someone went into the sky and scaled a building. And our buddy Jim Wyatt actually captured this video.
No harness or anything, right?
At J. Wyatt Sports. No harness. He is in what looks like the width of an elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Maybe that's on the outside of a skyscraper, and decided to go straight up this building. You want to talk about not looking down to freak you out? I don't know how any human could do this or want to do this. We can report that he safely made it to the top. But some crazy things we've seen at the Super Bowl, Hutton. This is not one of them that we've ever witnessed.
Well, even if you're really good at it, and clearly he made it to the top, right? But, like, even if you're great at this, like, at some point, can't you just have, like, a slip? You can make a mistake. You can –
a weird
and it's
gust
the
of
thrill
wind.
of it. Some people just love the thrill of just I mean, there were base jumpers here that were jumping off of buildings here in Nashville like 4 or 5 years ago. Remember that? And they're just parachuting off. It's like, what are they?
Would Tom Cruise do that?
Yes.
He would do it for a movie for sure.
He would do it.
I think he might just do it normally. Was that Tom Cruise? Are we not sure? Are we sure he's not?
They're actually filming a scene.
Preparing for Dead Reckoning Part 2 of the Mission Impossible series. Maybe that was a scene from that.
Top Gun Rooster.
There are things that thrill seekers do that I see and I'm like, okay, that would be cool if I could work up the guts to do it.
Yeah.
There are other things I watch and I think, no way, ever would I want to do that or see any value or see any bit of enjoyment in doing it. That we just witnessed is one of those things.
Well, and it's also
zero enjoyment from that.
Bringing attention to something, right? Like that. I'm sure there's some
Climate
story
change.
or whatever. Are they arrested after doing something like this? I'm assuming they're detained. Anti-abortion activist, according to TMZ, is what this guy was doing this on behalf of. Great, but like at the same time, like if you're pro-life, you probably don't want to risk yours.
So
you know what I mean? One slip and you're done.
So he's anti-abortion. I was confused on what side he was on. That's the problem when you do something like that. We don't know what side you're on. I don't know what the message is,
right?
One way or the other. So interesting.
So this reminds me of like David Blaine with the balloon thing. You're always trying to figure out like how this is rigged, where he ties himself and he floats up, and then they pop balloons and he just drops.
David Blaine freaks me out.
It's insane, man.
Are we sure he's not the Antichrist?
He may be.
He does some things, and I'm looking at him like, there's something off. There's a lack of soul.
It's a death wish
in your eyes that I just don't like.
He's one of those. He's like this
similar
guy.
to when I saw Marilyn Manson in concert.
Yeah,
Speaking of him, there's a
had a death wish.
There's a lack of soul there that was a little bit disconcerting.
So all you're saying is all you missed was David Blaine, and the world would have ended.
Pretty much. If David Blaine opened for Marilyn Manson at that concert I was at,
instead of
at
Smashing
Ascend
Pumpkins
Amphitheater in Nashville, the world would have ended right there. The rapture would have taken place.
Join us for what's going to be a great week from Radio Row at Super Bowl 57. We kick things off 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, tomorrow through Friday. Great coverage headed your way, both with OutKick 360, Don't At Me with Dan Dockich, and across the entire site. Hope you'll check us out at OutKick.com. Follow us on Twitter at OutKick360. Check us out tomorrow right here across the OutKick network.
See you in the desert.